2013 as board president.
Oh, you
I just wanted to thank everybody that helped me out during the past year and all the directors.
You called the other one. You called December's door.
Yeah, but I'm running.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I'm going to say it's my last meeting to get to really oversee. So I just want to thank everybody for helping me out this past year.
Was it fun?
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Hunt?
Here.
President Corolla?
Here.
Director Kellogg?
Here.
Vice President Duncan?
Here.
All right. And Georgina has an announcement.
Oh, for the,
Was it now?
well, for the consent calendar here.
Yeah.
Open up. I just wanted to note in the minutes of the October 16th regular meeting, I overlooked something, so I made a minor correction, and I put corrected copies on your desk.
Where? What page was it?
Couldn't find it.
It was on page, it was with regards to closed session on page 8. And I record whether or not there's questions or comments that I overlooked that, so I just made the correction to indicate in this case there was no questions or comments.
Oh, okay. I have a correction too. On the adjournment, says we adjourned at 12:18 p.m.
Oh,
That would
Was
be
yep.
It was a.m. We didn't.
Seemed like it was 12:18 p.m.
Good catch.
That was a long one. That was brutal.
I thought, gee, we didn't. I don't remember leaving right afternoon.
Okay, so approval of the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion or
I move we approve the consent agenda with the corrections to the minutes.
okay. Is there any further?
Oh, I'd like to comment on, go through it.
Tell me if there's nothing you want to move off or anything like that.
No.
I do have one comment before you get into that. The item on dive inspection, the motion that you'll approve as part of the consent calendar doesn't specifically say that that agreement will go through legal counsel, but it will. And the agreement gets reviewed by legal counsel before it gets finalized. So I wanted to make sure you understood that.
You
The
on-
motion
you on board
does.
with that, Dustin?
Pardon me?
I said you're on board with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, comments, Bill?
I'll just start with iPad page 22 and just go from there. Just to note that we've only done 90 feet of pipe installation and that was in July. So, anyway, my usual comment, we should be doing more pipe work. The next page, I was wondering, there was 18 meters replaced, and what were they replaced for? Why?
I don't know off the top of my head. Could be bad registers, could be bad. I can't
Just seems
tell you
like
if
a
this
lot of
includes.
meters for 1 month. So,
This for the year.
oh, it's for the year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's for the year.
No, then I won't ask anymore. I didn't see that. Then on monthly history of leak history, we have a big spike. I assume that's when we lost that big pipe. On page 25.
No, those are individual leaks, and that was the leak detection leaks, is why it spiked.
It was what?
From the leak detection.
Yeah.
So when we got those found through leak detection, we repaired them, and they show up as leak history. So if you look at the little box, it says 2012, 42 leaks. Those were leak detection leaks. So they didn't surface. We found them through leak detection. And that's why you're seeing that spike here on 2010 and 2012. And then we didn't find as many in 13, so you don't see the spike there.
Okay, thank you.
2010 was approximately the same as 2013, so that 42 and 12 shows that we should have a schedule, perhaps annually, to do that there.
Yeah, we've been doing it annually. Yep.
years?
5 years.
4 years?
4, I think 4.
So, you know,
Well, didn't we skip 1 year?
Yeah, we did.
Looks like 11.
Yep, 2011.
you know, the point I was trying to make it, it appears to be worth a while.
Oh, yes,
Yes. Yes.
very much so.
Then the next comment is on iPad page 31. I was so curious about this pad, I actually took a level up there today and ran the level on the pad, and it slopes about 3% toward the toilets instead of sloping away toward the lake. And so I thought it did, but I actually took a level and checked it out. There is, as you see in the picture, there's little puddles. Now, I was told when I was up there that Jim Landrini is going to come up and cut some grooves in that piece of concrete or something.
Yes,
Pardon?
saw cut it.
Saw cut. Saw with a saw.
Oh, with a concrete saw. Okay.
Concrete saw.
Okay. Well, hopefully it'll cure it.
From the south there, Saul.
Saw.
From the south.
I really hope it does cure, because if it doesn't, I would recommend we just take it out and replace it, not at the toilets, but in front of it, because of the slope and what's ice and so forth is going to accumulate there, and it's going toward the toilets. So.
You can see, I believe this sign right here says slippery when wet
Yes, and icy.
and icy.
Well, then in that case, Dustin, does that protect us from a lawsuit if the fellow falls down there?
We should ask Aqua JPIA.
Oh, I see. You're going to get off the hook on that one. Okay.
By cutting the sockets, it should drain the water.
At least put the water in the grooves,
Well, we'll find out.
hopefully.
Then page 35 on the use of the lake, and we're ahead of last year, it looks like. And it looks like we're going to be up a little bit from last year's usage of the lake, which is good news.
It's pretty close.
Anyone wants to register on it, too.
Yeah. And then on October's engineering report on 37, on the bottom it says meter size reductions total to date 19, meter size audits 38. I just wondered if half of them ended up being reductions to save on their charges, or did we-
Most likely, yeah.
Okay, so is this about a normal pace of that sort of thing? Or are we having more?
No, I think it's pretty normal.
Okay. Then on the next page, 38, it shows that we're down to 5.6% loss in September, but we're still losing 500 acre feet. Now, that's for the year, I gather, on that chart.
That looks back a year from the period. So from September to September, we lost about 400 acre feet of water.
Then on the billing report on page 40, the second column down, it says total accounts receivable, all routes is what's the bottom, 390,000. I was just looking at the amount of past due. It's up quite a bit from last year, and I think by this time last year, weren't we on monthly billing or no? Mm-hmm. So it looks like, that's up by probably a third, I would guess, or 25%.
Yep.
And I just wondered if it was a trend.
I mean, we're seeing an upswing in 48-hour notices and 15-day notices, and
I notice on mine it still doesn't say the 10% penalty. It just says a penalty will be assessed.
yeah.
So, can we change that easily? Just add the word 10%.
We're thinking of bringing forward a whole new process when it comes to the penalties and the billings and how the bills go out and the due dates on that, because it seems to be confusing some of the customers on that based on how it's reading.
Okay. And I think I'll go real quick.
Just knock it down to 30 days, is that what you're-
And changing the actual bill
Start
date,
date.
the start date.
On page 51 and 50, it has pictures of the tanks that we're going to have tested. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, inspected,
Inspected?
right,
The diver's going to do that?
yes. We have difficulty draining both a tank and that tank because of operational reasons. So the dive inspection is commonly done in the industry by professional. These are actually engineers with credentials that do the diving year-round. This is what their profession is. And it actually is the president of, or one of the owners of the harbor that will actually do the diving.
It says you're going
Very
to,
experienced.
they're going to suck the sand, accumulated sand out with a vacuum?
Well, in the A tank, there's a really small amount. I mean, it's very, very minuscule, but yet, let alone it was left in the tank after construction, so we want it out. I'm going to actually take pictures of it right before they confirm that the sand is still there before they do the diving. We suspect it will still be there after a year, but we'll confirm that it is before we tell the harbor to mobilize with their vacuums.
Okay. Then the other one is the picture. I like these pictures. They're really great. I'm more of a visual person than anything else. And all the lines indicating leaks on the, this is at the water treatment plant, isn't it, the cement?
Right.
And is there something coming down the road where we're going to have to do something about lining that tank or doing anything? You indicated there might be some deterioration in your report inside.
Right. The staff report that on the consent agenda talked about, the first phase was the dive and the assessment. Second phase, we'll have some idea of estimated costs. Then they'll actually do plans and specs and get an engineer's estimate, and you'll have a chance to approve that action. And once we know the extent of damage in that tank, and then we'll have bid documents prepared, and then we'll go to bid, and then you'll have a chance to authorize the contract, the lowest bidder. We know there has to be work done in that tank, but we're not exactly sure of the extent. The range could be as low as $30,000. It could be as high as $100,000. Wide gamut right now, costs.
Does it currently have a liner or some kind of spray liner in it? Or
Not have a liner.
No, it actually, when it was constructed, it had a liner in it, and the liner failed, and the district went through a legal process with the contractor and ended up settling out of court and not replacing the liner. That was right before I got here.
No, it's just concrete.
Now it's just concrete, and it's caught the attention of the health department. They cited it in their annual inspection, and they're looking for us to evaluate it further. And there's some, not consensus in the water community whether lining is needed or just specific repairs for this would be the best way to go. So that's kind of the swing of 30 to 100,000, depending on what the correct repair is.
What's the health department want us to do? They want us
Just
to
what we're doing, inspect it and come up with a solution.
come up with a solution for it doesn't leak, in other words?
Yeah, they're mostly worried about contamination or failure.
Water coming in from the outside into the tank rather
Possibly, yeah.
They're probably not too concerned with how much water we lose out of the tank.
Nope, that's not their
Not
worry.
Not their worry, exactly.
There was no competitive bidding on this one?
The staff report based this on sole source procurement, based on their history of both A-Tank, which they helped do the A-Tank with us. And they actually have what George described back in what occurred in 2002. The company was involved in helping the district remove the lining. So they have a history of continuity of service on both projects. So the sole source was based on that, and then, of course, their experience. And the district has selected them a number of times through an RFP process. Yes.
We have to do a thing to rebuild. We have to break the thing. What can they do with water?
When the repairs are made to drain the tank. And that's a complicated process that our operators are well aware of how to do, but it takes some relatively extraordinary operations to make it work.
So in the case of A, when I was touring around with Bill, what will that do to the water supply in A zone?
We're just going to bypass the tank. The treatment plant produces the same amount of water. They're valving to bypass the tank that were installed in the tank.
How does the water, the reason I'm asking this, in one of your things that you put out, you wanted the pipeline between the treatment plant and A tank, $1 million pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we have a pipeline there now that will take care of.
Well, the same.
No, it's different. What he's talking about is bypassing the concrete tank for repairs.
Yeah.
The A tank repairs are done.
Okay.
This is just going to be a dive inspection, and all of that work will be done with a full A tank.
Okay. We're talking about the green metal tank.
Right.
Yep, that's the A tank.
I'm glad I had that sure. I also looked at this one down there at the bottom. It does look a little pretty. Just from the outside, very different. That's what the health department's looking at. There's those big black streaks running down there.
The darkest black streaks are the ones that are leaking.
Yeah.
The other ones are just
Sediment
not
runoff.
significant.
Yeah, just,
Sediment runoff or whatever.
Moss.
Yeah.
just barnacles and all kinds of good stuff.
No barnacles.
No barnacles. Are you sure?
Well, we'll have a diver who will be looking for
They'll
barnacles.
be looking for
I'll put him on
barnacles.
the alert to protect the barnacles.
Watch out for the barnacles.
Okay, Bill. Any more?
Next, the landscape maintenance workshop on it. I thought that was an excellent idea, and that we have this kind of outreach to the community to help with water conservation needs. It is be the first one I'm aware of since I think I've been on the board, other than school programs.
This is up on your screen right now. Okay.
So it's costing less than $750, but I thought that was excellent. I hope you get good support in the community, landscapers and others turning out for it.
Now,
This is what we recommended. We have the Community Relations Committee consultant.
quick question. When we approve this, if we consent it, then we have public, on number 4, we'll still be getting a short report on those items for 1 through 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be page 63 of the file. That's 63. But I give the one that else there.
Yep.
This is where we're
Okay, good.
It all goes at once. I was trying to make sure I didn't go too far on asking questions. We've got 2 more things to go. Save a Can, Buy a Fish has been a good program for us. So. The next one is page 65. I thought this was a really good report on building materials authorization. And I understand the infill word up there is actually the building itself, filling in inside of the building.
Yes.
So for some reason I thought it was gravel when I first read it. So.
Yeah, that's the terminology Jim uses. So
Okay.
the infill of.
If
the
you
building.
remember, we took from the contractor a slab and a shell, and in the other case, not even outside walls. So infill is everything we've done under that roof.
Yeah, I looked at it today and it looks really good. They're moving right along. One fellow told me very seriously, we've got a January 1st drop dead date, and I said, well, I hope it gets done by then. But I said we've had several drop dead dates we've gone by for one reason or another. So at any rate, they're working very hard at it. And then the budget items remaining, having it itemized like that, that's a good help, rather than us just coming up with the money to do that. So we know exactly what's going on. I was curious where the fence goes. And then the other part of it was, while I was there today, they were cutting down 4 pines that had died at the top and are beetle infested. It was amazing. They had I don't know what you call it, a huge crane to take down the tops. And I talked to the contractor. He just came over to me to talk. I was just standing there. And he explained to me that, I asked him, I said, wouldn't it be less than bringing in that crane to have a cut and lower by ropes, which I'm familiar with? And he said, talked a little bit, and he said, no, I think it'd be about the same cost to bring that crane in, because the crane's so much faster, and he was concerned with the tops of the trees falling into the new building. Because these trees, for the most part, parallel the building, and there was one of them, I know we commented when we first started taking down trees, it was in pretty poor shape, and it's one of them that's going out. It's the biggest one closest to here. They're 110 feet in the air, that's what he said, on height today. So I guess that's coming out of something, other funds somewhere to do that. I didn't see anything in here about tree work. So
It'll be coming out of this budget. We'll just have to.
You're going to have to figure out where to pull it from.
That's right.
I assumed it was something of an emergency sort because you didn't want the tops to blow off in a storm.
That's right.
Well, I was going to report on my manager's report, but there was three trees that had red turpentine beetles attack them, and that's what was killing them. And the neighboring trees were not healthy and stressed, so the likelihood of them jumping over to that spot was high. And with the building there, etc., we got the recommendation from the tree service to take all those out, and they went through the town process, and that's how it all got started and getting them done before winter and the winds.
And Corporation Yard, the chart that's given on page 66, showing us how we've spent our money as we've gone and where we're at. I think that's something we should, as directors, pay some attention to, but I don't, unless somebody wants to question it, I don't have any questions about it. And then the last thing is this online fee schedule for a credit card.
Yeah. So we've currently charged $3 to process a credit card with our new accounting system. Customers have online access to their accounts. The efficiencies associated with that have presented it that we can not charge them a fee because we're saving labor time in not having to process that charge and process the batch, because it automatically posts to the account, processes the batch, the person comes in, clicks the button, and it's done. And so we feel like we want to encourage people to use the online system because of the time savings associated with that. So to encourage them, we felt like it would be best to drop that fee from the online credit card processing. We're still going to charge it for in-house. We'll still charge it for over the phone because there's no efficiencies associated with that. We're also eliminating that someone can go online and pay by check because we do the processing ourselves. I think it opens up a little bit of liability to the district if someone was to hack our account and come in and steal all their check information. And then we would be, even if it wasn't us, let's say they had fraud on their account, they would be looking back at us. So with elimination of the fee for the credit card, we're offering them a free payment online. We'll eliminate that and it'll be no risk to us. All credit card information that is charged or used is handled off-site. We don't have to worry about any of the information, numbers, or any of that. It's all handled off-site. So,
What do we charge for processing credit cards? Are we charged anything at all?
we are charged. Yes, we're charged.
$3.
We're charged a $1.75 per transaction. Plus, we are charged a processing fee based on the amount of money that is used, which approximate is about $1 on average, $1 to $1.25. So our $3 fee is really almost a break even for us in what we charge.
But we won't. Are we still paying $1.75 for the proposed ones?
Yes, but we did the calculation, and the calculation says that we'll be saving more than $3 on labor savings by allowing them to use it online only and not having that person interacting with the customer and swiping the card and processing the payment and posting the payment to their account.
Well, thank you for the explanation.
Yep.
So I want to make sure I understand. We will be charged, the district will be charged a credit card fee,
Correct.
but that won't be passed on to the customer?
Only on online, correct.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Only those that pay online, it won't be transferred.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll absorb that cost.
That's all I
The
have.
incentive is that we're not spending labor in any other
Correct.
sources of transactions than we are spending labor,
That's correct.
and then, which adds up to more than $3, so
That is correct.
the encouragement is to go online.
Correct.
Quick question, did you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when I buy fuel occasionally down here, well, most of the time, Arco, and, when my wife lets me use my card, they charge 45 cents.
Correct.
So we're being charged about 75, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's not debit, that's credit.
That's correct. Yeah.
But
We don't have a debit PIN card.
Yeah, but
Okay, that's pretty.
your gas station doesn't,
Huh?
your gas station doesn't have anybody involved in doing it. There's no people involved, it's all
No,
It's all automatic.
Oh, it's all automatic somewhere.
See, so when it's automatic for us, we don't charge anything.
Well, it's a debit card too, it isn't a credit. So.
Yeah.
But we have no charge up there
I
on our
would
debit.
go with debit, you know. And one time it was down, and they were saying that it was someplace back east, you know, it's not.
That handles all
that. They could all be flying through the air, it's mind-boggling to me.
Okay, so if there's nothing more from Director Keller, that was it?
Yep.
Okay, Director Duncan? Comment on?
I think
Director Hunt?
I'll ask
Pleasure?
Cosmic to do that.
No? Any comments from the public?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just briefly, I talked to Kevin about this. This is about, from Pitt, going from bi-monthly to monthly billing. And so I always pay my bill like Johnny on the spot and yada, yada, yada. Here I am, pay up upon receipt. So what's happening after I did some investigating and talking to PG&E and how they do their monthly billing, right? They go from the statement date. So you have 21 days from that statement date, so you're not back to back.
This is
That
actually,
50 days.
Linda, I think what you want this is in is public participation,
Oh,
not the consent calendar.
You're one step away.
You're one step ahead.
One
oh
step
my
ahead.
gosh, Pisces, I gotta get it out.
So we have the gist, and so I'm gonna come back to you in
All
public
right.
participation. Okay, so there's no comments on the consent calendar. All in favor of the consent calendar with the amendments to the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Passes 5-0. Now, public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda. Although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for public comment on agenda items will be provided at the time they are discussed by the board, with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda tonight?
I would like to.
Linda, please.
Can I pick up where I left off, or do I,
Yes, we got
okay?
the gist of it.
So basically, what I've calculated out, I've talked to Kevin, and I realize this is on the next agenda, right?
Well, it could. We're
We're
working on it to get there.
Boy, am I a liability. Anyhow, it appears that the 50-day clause or rule that was on the bi-monthly billing is not applicable in this case, and that's what's throwing that date off, because it appears that that possibly may be.
The problem is that the policy states that the billing date is the read date. And so our read date is the first, because that's when we pull all of our monthly reads in. So that's when the time starts on that 50 days. But our bills don't go out till the 15th, let's say. Well, you've already eaten up 15 days into that bill date. So then when we get another bill out, let's say it's on the 15th, well, it's really you still have 50 days, so your account's still current even though you've gotten another bill. But you're technically past due on that other one because it's a past due charge. It's very confusing. So we've went from multiple iterations on the bill to try to get customers to understand, okay, what's current, what's past due, what amount is going to be charged a penalty if you don't pay by a certain date, because you can have a current due and you can have a past due, but none of those are penalized until after 50 days, which we give our customers 60 days really to pay that amount. And so it's been difficult to get that information out based on those rules. So and I've talked to Ken about this, but I think the recommendation that I would give is to give it to the Admin and Personnel Committee, because it is a policy, and to rework the policy to fit what our current practices are. Because it worked in the last, because we would read at such different times.
You need to read a meter every day of the month.
Right, and those billings were going out almost on that same type of stepping platform. Well, now it's not that way. Everything's read at the same time. Everything's going out at the same time. And so I think it's in the best interest of the district to kind of reflect our billings, to reflect our new practices. So put the statement date as when the date that they're printed and sent out, that's the start date. Give them X amount of days to pay, and after those X amount of days are over, then you are charged a penalty. And I believe that probably would be less confusing to the customer, because that's how normal businesses, normal utilities are working out there, and it would best suit the district. So that's my recommendation, and I think that satisfies her.
You're still going to do 50 days?
Well, we'll talk through the committee.
Policy.
The committee will bring a recommendation. But-
So at this time, you do not want to put anything on the agenda for next month until the admin committee has had a chance to bring something forward?
Well, I don't want to be redundant, but I want to protect myself, because what's happening here is a lot of people that are on fixed incomes, they don't get paid until the first or the third, and right now you have to pay right before the first. So you've got a lot of elderly people and veterans that are I can just see it, not just me, but the whole customer service, and I'm sure everybody has other things they need to do than answering the phone. So that was, I take your word for it, and I'll wait patiently.
I think we've been working with people that if they are finding themselves in a predicament of
They still have 60 days to
1 day, 2
pay.
day things.
I think what's happening, the billing is so close to one another. You think you paid that bill for the month, and then, wow, it's right there again. So a double bill for a lot of people isn't a big deal, but it is for people on.
And it's confusing on what
And it's
they need to pay and what they don't need to pay. And
Most of the monthly bills, just you're getting it on the 15th, they're reading on the 1st,
And it says upon receipt, due upon receipt. That's what's so jarring.
Standard lingo for any bill out there is due upon receipt.
yeah,
but-
and we started taking away the dates because people were getting confused on what was past due and what wasn't.
PG&E's, I talked to them today, and they,
Well, they're
their
gonna do
collection
date.
process, they're in a 2735 billing cycle. And when they do a reading on that day, it starts counting 21 days. So when you get it, you know it's due by the first of the month, and that first week. It's just, so I just wanted to.
Well,
Keep it
we'll
simple.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through, so are you okay with not putting on the agenda
Yes.
for next month until it goes through?
I would
I'm
be
sure
attached
I'll work on
to
having a
yeah, come on
Yes,
in.
I'm fine.
policy work on that.
We'll let you know when the committee meeting is. You can join that if you'd like.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that is open.
and
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, is there anybody else in the public that had something they wanted to talk about that's not on the agenda? Or you brought us calendars? I know she brought us calendars. Okay. Committee reports. I will say that we've got a lot of consent calendar to go, excuse me. Now I'm back where you were. Closed session to go into tonight. So let's try to keep things moving from here on in. And we're going to do committee reports and presentations, oral reports of department representation of commissions and committees. First one is going to be Butte Lafto, Director Duncan.
Okay, we met on the 7th of November, and we welcomed our new special district representatives, which were Tom Lando and Tom Lando, who's from Chico Area Recreation and Park District, and Wes Gilbert, who's Butte County Resource Conservation District. Now, Tom Lando used to be the manager of Chico. Yeah, and it was very interesting because he must be upset with the people that are in management, because he took our side and went against Chico at the meeting. In fact, he was very outspoken. I was shocked. And but anyway, because see, Chico has been breaking the law by accepting hookups to their sewers without our approval. And there, like I said last time, there's over 60 of them that they've done. Okay, so and then we let's see. Oh, we had made an amendment to the employees MOU. It was just we just removed any ambiguities in the implementation of LAFCO personnel policies. Okay, and then we had a public hearing on review of El Medino Fire Protection, their sphere of influence, and their MSR. Last time when we reviewed them, we gave them a 0 sphere of influence because they didn't have any funds to do it. They're doing something, but they really don't have much funds to do it. But I noticed on the news today now that Oroville's going to be depending on them more because they're going down to a 3-person station, and so that may have an effect on it. And then we're working really hard with Chico to get them to hook up and annex. Not to get it approved and annex any of these islands that they've got down there. And they're fighting us because they feel they don't have the money to do it. In fact, the city manager wrote a letter asking for us to delay it for another 30 days. And that's when Lando got all upset because he said the money could come from the sewer fund, which is where it should come from, and they got plenty of money in there. And so we're hopefully next time we're going to get something in writing from them. And that's all we did at the meeting. But then we did have a CalAFCO meeting on the 8th of November, the next day, and we did our review of our employees. They're not employees, they're contractors. We don't have any employees. And we're going through their requests for increases in their contracts. And then we reviewed our meeting that was held at Lake Tahoe, and we're getting ready for the new year for 2014 for legislation and so forth. And Steve, from LAFCO, is a executive deputy, and he's heading up. He's a co-chairman on the legislative committee, and that's one of the biggest things that CalAFCO does is the legislation. And that's it.
Thank you, Director Duncan. The second one is going to be Water Conservation Committee, Directors Kroll and Flesher. Director Flesher. That'd be what?
iPad 63. We'll bring that up there. This is our first year that our Conservation Committee has been functioning. And, as a committee, and personally, I'm very pleased with some of the activities that we've had, and I'm going to report just on 2, and one of them gets me approved in this consent calendar. But we're planning on putting together a water conservation workshop, landscape maintenance workshop, and what we're looking at doing is using Federal River, Parks and Rec, School District, Cemetery, and Cemetery District. And we're going to be getting those people together and putting together some thoughts and ideas, and then we'll be using some garden shops and also some commercial landscapers. And as it says there, you think, and we'll be brainstorming. We're going to have our next conservation meeting on the 2nd of December, and then we'll be getting together. Now, I haven't contacted my volunteers to do that. Any of those people, several of them, all those areas are bypass students, and I've been spending more time at Feather River than I would like to. And their landscape maintenance program, I've never seen any water wasted, any time of day or night. I've been there all time, day and night. And so we'll be getting back to you on that particular one. And so that can really be kind of beneficial to the community. We'll brainstorm and put it together. And we're going to plan on doing that at this given moment in the middle of February. We felt would be the ideal time to do that. And it would be a good step towards landscape. Then the second thing I'd like to report on is our demonstration vegetable garden. And I really feel good about that one myself. It's this little area up here. Dr. DePietro is the one that mentioned that we do something like that. And as long as people are putting gardens in Paradise, vegetable gardens, well, it would behoove us to have some type of a test plot on that particular one. And what we were able to get accomplished is the part that we're talking about is up here on the top. And if you drive up Clark Road, you'll see those post rocks out in front of it, marked off. And how this all happened after I had my seed and heart attack. Keith and Pete jumped on it with George, and we worked that up with the backhoe, which we severed ripping if you're acquainted with any of this down in the valley, and then they smoothed it all out. And then we planted a cover crop on the top of it, which is a plow down. It consists of legumes and grasses and Dragon Kellogg raised the seed for it, and we've been waiting for water. Well, I looked at it earlier when I was up there today, and what would you say, 7 days? We should start
Yeah.
It's kind of about 6, 7, or 8 days will grow. If we get a good stand, which is need lots of plants, well, then we're going to put some signage anyway, talking about what we're doing this particular one. And Ward, who is in charge of daffodil days in Paradise, has already got them planted, and they decided that they brought Jim Legrini brought the post rocks out and marked it off, and I think they look pretty good. So we haven't looked at it when we drive up down Clark Road, and it's the staff here that's doing it. And this group has got daffodils. So I was talking to his transfer machine, like drugs, in the spring, I can see them growing on it. So we accomplished quite a bit.
What is the difference between a landscape maintenance and a garden? I mean, I know what the difference is, but I mean, it sounds like this one might be part of a landscaping too.
It's all landscape.
Yeah.
My place and Albies and all these others, the garden is a great part of the landscape. And I think what DePietro and Mickey were talking about when they suggested we do this, we can't have the whole ridge covered with drought-resistant grass because people are just not going to do that now. So what we'll do is we'll figure out, and we've got all winter to do that now. Because one of the things we wanted to get done as a committee was to get the ground worked and then plant this cover crop on it, which is a green movement, and I've been doing it, I learned 70 years ago when I was 10 years old when I was doing this. And then put nitrogen and organic matter all back in the soil. And now we've got all winter to plan, and we would work it up in most likely April or March and go from there.
But now the people that are going to do the garden up here,
Well,
are you going to have them go to the workshop too?
No,
Workshop's more for like landscapers.
Well, it sounds
Landscape
like.
contractors.
Let me explain, it's two different entities.
Oh, okay.
Two different entities.
Oh,
We had this horrible looking piece of ground, George would even agree with that. It was sitting up there and covered with crap and corruption and everything else. And Keith and his crew went in there and smoothed it all up. Take a look at it next time you drive by. It's been worked 12 to 18 inches deep, like you would do in a commercial type vegetable garden. And now we've got this cover crop on top of it. And if we get a stand which feeds plants right, it'll look beautiful all winter. And we'll put some signage out there what we're doing. And then the commercial conservation committee, working with the Paradise Garden Club and anything, but else, will try to put in that side of the garden plot, the signage selling all that. Now, the water conservation thing will be involving those major districts that we're talking about. And they're key people and the landscapers and the garden shops and all that, and who knows where it'll go from there. Where did they come into like they are?
Oh, I think you got it.
So it's kind of exciting, and it's our first year doing it.
Isn't Doug?
Belinda and Jim are both on that committee. Jim takes the minutes and does an awesome job, I might add.
I'll make just one little correction. We're going to have a meeting on the 10th. You said the 2nd of December, but it's actually the 10th of December. So anybody that's interested in coming to the water conservation.
And the main thing we're going to be doing there, I'm actually back here, is just planning out this workshop. And if nothing else, I'll get with the Feather River people and some of the others, and invite them to it too. And we'll just get some brainstorming going early. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Director Fletcher. Paradise Lake Recreation Committee, Director Fletcher and Hunt. Director Hunt, you have any papers on that?
We talked a lot. The old business about the kayak rental at Paradise Lake. We opened discussion about that again. Talked about vendor operated rental. Another option would be PID buying used or soliciting kayaks as a donation. That's putting them out for rental. Partnering with Paradise Recs and Park District with scheduled instructions of kayaking classes. So, really the one that we're most interested in would be an outside vendor taking over. People logging on that would becoming vendors of recreational activities. It's difficult locating a vendor for a turnkey operation. Another issue would be liability insurance. What we would have to look into if we were to get past the first step. If we were going to be using people up there, then we would be looking for interns or volunteers as a basis to help move that along. And then we would get involved in a lot of advertising, marketing, posting on our website, maybe special public interest weekend rentals, various things like that. But we're back to, we're just to the point of trying to solidify and see if we can get an outside agency to come in and handle that for us. So I'm going to contact the Chico State Associated Students Adventure Outings, who are the people that handle the similar vendor booths over at the Forebay at Lake over there. And when I get a hold of them, I'll talk to them, find out what their needs are. Maybe they would say, I would like to have 2 opportunities. They may not even know what it's like. They may not have the equipment or the personnel to staff it though. So I'm going to get that information before we move any further. In regard to project updates, grant application for the North Boat launch, there's no activity, so nothing to report there. Improvements in the Upper Park area at Paradise Lake. Discussion included the shaded fuel maintenance, successful assistance from the Sheriff's Alternate Custody Program. That's the little beepers on your neck. And it's quite an interesting deal. Greg says that he said we get a lot of work from the convict crews, but I'm pretty sure that it went this way. The people with the beepers are there just to try and put in their time. They just got to put in so much time there and not really so much interested in working. During this, some of the other things that were down, there's a barbecue area improvement, rock trail between the barbecue area and the gazebo, restored 2 porta potties near the playground, and just general park upkeep. Greg's going to follow up now at this time of the year while the lake level is low to go to launch ramp number 1 and add ballast, stone, and gravel in the muddy areas. It's down so low that we run out of the hard pack areas. And if anybody goes down to launch the boat, then the muck and mud, and while the lake is low, before it starts filling up, this is the time to be doing something if we're going to make little improvements in it. In regard to Proposition 40 funding, the shaded fuel break, we discussed the January 2014 shaded fuel projects along the east side of the reservoir and the west side of the Magalia Heights. CEQA reviews are underway on both of those areas. We'll just move ahead and get the CEQA reviews and take advantage of cleaning that up. There was a discussion about the replacement of no trespassing boom line at the north end of the lake. We've established, we put signs up, but that the neighbor up there is still cranky with people from the lake going in and going past that particular no-go zone and onto his private property. But we can't shoot them on site, so We've got the no trespassing signs. There's not a lot more we can do. We aren't gonna be the policeman and go out there and take them down and say, don't do that. We think we've done about as much as we can. We did discuss the fact that there's trespassing in a reverse manner from that site. And apparently the people who kind of go there for weekend stays and vacation deals, they think it's okay for them to just leave that private land, come onto the PID property in reverse, and use our trails as bicycling trails and walking trails, without, of course, coming around the front, parking, paying a fee for the use of the property. Maybe we'll shoot those people.
Rubber bullets.
It's a good thing we don't take direction from board members.
Save a Can, Buy a Fish fundraising discussion. Northern Recycling and Waste Services was contacted by PID staff to solicit interest in a weekend event promoted to collect recyclables to help fund the fish stocking purchase for Kids Fishing Day. Company supports this program. George is going to request support from the district's Public Relations Committee and board authorization relative to planning and advertising such an event. And then the committee and the board will make a decision whether we go ahead with that.
Already did.
Yeah, it was on the consent agenda.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, and going backwards here. And that's about all. We talked about the lake activity, the permits being up, the revenues are up a little bit more than last year. So all is good. Our next future meeting date is February 12, 2014. Doug, would you like to add anything?
Well, no, I think we did a great job with it.
Well,
But one of the things that was interesting, apparently our crew up there has done more this year to abide by the no trespassing up there at the lake. And I think they're encouraging the people that are using their property to pay to go over and use our property. In fact, they even kind of hold it as a fence,
Oh,
And this is the first year that that's happened. In all the years Craig's been up there, so it's kind of interesting. I don't know what's going on up there.
do we have a sign for them that says you shouldn't come across like we do for ours?
we went out and had very careful signs.
Okay. Have a spin.
Thank you, Director Hunt.
Could I make a comment?
Sure.
When I was up there today, I ended up talking to Reagan and Dave. I didn't go up there with the intention of talking to anybody, but anyway, Greg said, why don't you go over and look at where we're putting the gravel in? So I went across and looked at the landing where we put it in. And as I walked down, it was all what I'd call, I guess, road small pieces on it. And then it got down, and all of a sudden there was lunkers as big as my fist. And I thought I could hardly walk on it. And I thought, and I wear boots all the time. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute, the lake level goes down. How are people going to walk on that heavy rock? And in the past, it looks like it's always been a light rock that's been put down time and time again. But unless you roll it or do something to push that rock down into the surface and put gravel over it, light gravel or road base over it, it's actually I'd say it's gone the wrong direction. It's something that people...
You didn't talk to anyone up there?
No, I didn't want to stop them where they're working to ask anybody about it.
Because they probably weren't done.
No, I assume they weren't done, but
Putting the
I just
ballast
saw
rock down to bridge the mud, and then they cover it with the normal gravel.
But is that what they did in the past? Because I actually scratched down on the old gravel, and I saw no sign.
Maybe not long ago, but in this deep, not all the time, but in this deep mud, that's the best way to do. You get a bridge with the ballast, and then you put the fine stuff on top, and then you won't lose the fine stuff into the mud.
You were right on track, Bill. Your suggestion of how to fix it.
You were just at step one.
You're ahead of them.
Yeah.
No,
They weren't done yet.
They were.
Then I had a long talk, and I didn't instigate it, talking to Dave about his employment situation, and I don't know where to bring that up, but I'd like to bring it up sometime tonight.
Conversation you can go have with George.
That's a good one to call me on, Bill.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why he talked to you.
Okay.
So, comment I want to make. So, thank you, Director Hunt. Administration and Personnel Committee, Directors Kroll and Hunt. So you're going to hear from me again.
Okay. We met Thursday last week, and a lot of the items that we talked about are on this agenda. The credit card processing has already been taken care of in the consent agenda, so I won't talk about that now. Employment agreement for finance and accounting manager, that's going to be coming up later on the agenda. PID Public Facilities Financing Corporation bylaws. We talked about
Did Emily get back to you on that
changes in the
language?
bylaws.
Yeah, I forwarded it
financing,
to Ken.
I never saw it when we saw her. Is she okay with it?
Yeah, she made a minor change to it. I don't remember what it was, but it was minor.
Nomenclature of the language, and we'll be bringing it forth to that, to the board there to approve that. But there's nothing that is being brought at this point. No significant changes at all. I think we discussed picking a specific date each year to have that Public Facilities Financing Corporation meeting, so that we're required, or we're supposed to be doing it once a year at a minimum. And then sometimes we miss it, and once a year, so we're thinking about just establishing it.
December.
December every year.
What was it that exactly you were saying? I didn't understand.
Well, that's, you know, like when we do the bonds, it's, I guess, the Public Facilities Financing Corporation. We have to have, we have a separate corporation that approves bond financing, and do we take these loans from the state to that?
No, just the certificates of participation bonds.
Okay. So it's something that, you know, we kind of forget about. We participate in it, and we go to sleep on it until Kevin wakes us up and says, we got to do something here with this. But we're supposed to have a meeting once a year, remind ourselves that.
Oh, as a corporation and vote on it. Yeah, I remember us doing that. So, yeah. Okay.
And we'll get that back to the board here and get that cleaned up a little bit and into a schedule. And then existing PID rules and regulations, policy manual, and possible amendments. We kind of ran out of time and didn't want to just take that up without doing some homework on it. So the committee members are going to get started on that again, taking the policy manual and going through it and reviewing on our own time for the next month or so. And then when we're ready, we'll talk to Kevin about getting back together for another meeting. We want to make further changes in that. So that's that was all we can.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. We are now going to move on to the general manager's report.
Okay, you have my written report. I have a few things to add. First, if you'll remember the CCC cruise, or the CCC was going to put in a grant application on our behalf, and Keith Welch came and talked to you about that a month or so ago. We didn't make the first round, so he's still chasing that around, but we weren't funded in the first cycle. So an update on that. We already talked about the tree removal. I did meet with the Klungvets on Shady Lane. They had a conflict at tonight's meeting, which worked out for us, so we can keep doing some digging. So that'll be on December's agenda. But we had a good discussion. We have found out that at least the first part, we're working with the title company to kind of figure out what happened in the past and what kind of road covenants were given and things like that. So we're working that out. We did find out that the district took over a piece of property in 1936. Remember when we used to own 60% of the district? Well, this was one of them that we took back for unpaid taxes. And the original property was bordered by Pearson, Nunley, Scottwood, and Academy. So that whole section of land was PID owned. So we're trying to get a little more track record on what happened after that. I talked to our grant writing person. I think I mentioned last week she couldn't get a talk to a lot of people because of the government shutdown. It kind of lagged everything. Things are starting to surface a little bit. There's a Bureau of Reclamation Conservation grant that she's going to do some phone calling for us on conservation type efforts. And her main first thing she needs to do is find out if the district needs to adopt a conservation plan, which is oftentimes a requirement of these federal grants, and whether it's needed for this grant or not. And if it is, we're going to keep talking about the best way to develop a conservation plan that meets all of the requirements of these funders.
Don't we almost have a conservation plan with our watershed and all that?
We have a lot of pieces and parts probably, but we haven't adopted, a lot of the urban water management plan stuff would go into a conservation plan, but they have their specific guidelines they like to see, and we'd have to adopt something that met all of those. So she's working on that. I have a meeting. We had a meeting with Schneider Electric. They're the folks that are doing the evaluation on the pump storage project from Paradise to Magalia. And so we had a conference call with some of their key finance people back east that know the power market and what future power projections are and things like that. So we answered some of their questions. And then next Monday, I'll be going to Sacramento to meet with Division of Safety of Dams so they can give Schneider and me the input on their thoughts on would anything have to be done to Paradise Dam to accommodate a pump storage, because when you do a pump storage project, you're going to draw that down 10 to 15 feet during peak demand times, and then you're going to pump that water level back up in the other 18 hours. And so we need to get DSOD's input on if they would think they would need any additional protections to that existing dam to make that work, because that'll be a key question in their first shot evaluation.
That's pumping water. I understand it. We're going to run water down to create power, and then in the off times we'll pump the water back up.
Yeah, it would help us fund a new Magalia Dam. So when you had the new dam with enough storage, then you would, and it probably wouldn't go down the creek. It would probably actually be in a tunnel or a penstock that it would flow down during the peak times and then be pumped up that same. So what's flowing in the creek would be normally what we flow anyhow.
So how about at like low water time of the year? Would it be feasible when we're like we are now 20 some feet down from the top? In other words, we wouldn't have as much head to produce power.
Yeah, that's part of that would be part of the whole evaluation. So part of it, they know you can't do it 100% of the time, and so they'll be evaluating. Maybe not as much in this first level, but they understand there's a point in time in the year that you're going to have less and less water to be able to move up and down the hill, depending on those parameters. So it's all part of the evaluation.
Could put a small power station into utilizing that then?
Possibly, yeah. That's one solution, is to have different size turbines.
Now, in years past, I think when we talked about this, there was some thing about would PG&E buy the power, or are they mandated now to buy the power from something like this?
They're not mandated. That's part of this conversation with the folks back east, trying to analyze. Schneider's talked to Roseville, the Roseville Power Association, Northern California Power Association, which is in Roseville. They buy power for Roseville, BART, a couple big hospitals, things like that. So there's a way you could possibly do a direct agreement with an individual entity. PG&E may be interested. You may have someone willing to pay us a set price, and then they'll play the market and sell it on the market. So there's a lot of options.
But it has to go back on PG&E's line, so they charge something similar to we do when we process somebody else's water through our system.
Yeah, there's more than likely a transmission fee. Yep.
Okay.
It's heavily regulated, as I understand it. So the fees are pretty much set. It's not really a negotiation. It's
I would imagine that's the case, because if PG&E didn't want to do it, they'd raise the fees to the point where it wouldn't be possible.
We're more like negotiating to where the power's going to go, who's going to get the rights to the power, but the transmission part of it.
You're going to pay whatever the market is.
Yeah,
It's
whatever
not,
it
that,
is.
that aspect of it's not really negotiated.
So it's still moving forward. Last thing I think I need to bring up, if I didn't miss anything else on my... Oh, water rights. We had further discussion with Water Rights Board staff. They were pretty clear, and I haven't even got to talk to you, that looking back is not an option.
Beyond the 10-year period?
Yeah. But there is an option of picking the 10-year period, or we can use the most recent 5 years. And so Neil's done some work on evaluating the most recent 5 years, and that's sitting with our water rights engineer. She got that Monday, and I'm going to have a conversation with her shortly, and we'll figure out what's the best move forward. But that's where we're at with that one. And then lastly, on the processed water recycle project, Lee and Rowe is finalizing their first report with evaluating all the alternatives. Staff has looked at it, and I appreciate all the effort they've put into it. Like I said in my report, they went out and looked at different dewatering options, and so we brought all our input into Lee and Rowe, and they are wrapping up their report. And then on the side project is the constructed wetlands. He got a quotation from a company in Florida, and we both agreed to disregard that one because they weren't even going to make a site visit. We got a proposal from Terry Strange. He's a biologist. He's not an engineer, and he gave us a proposal. And then we got a proposal from Brown and Caldwell that Ron Kreitz would be doing the work. That's the gentleman Director Kellogg found, and he was only a couple $100 more than Terry Strange, but we both felt that he is an engineer, he understands water treatment, and so we're going to proceed with Brown and Caldwell as the sub, and anticipating a report sometime around the first of the year.
Thank you. The question I have on the water recycle thing, I wanted to ask it because I knew Jim was going to be here tonight too, is that if we put in what we've already voted money on, those 2 settlement ponds up there, and then put off of them an aeration system of some sort to get rid of the one chemical, the air, and the ponds, aluminum is what we're understanding.
Filtration or aeration?
No, aeration. You want the water to either go over a ripple thing, and I've been told by my friend who worked in water, and I think Santa Cruz is where he's from, and sewage both in his career there. But he was telling me that 100 feet of aeration system will pretty well clean up something like this because it has a short half-life and is very volatile. In other words, it would go off as gas. And I was... Aluminum? No, not the aluminum. I can never pronounce the name of the other thing. What is it? Yeah, he's the expert there.
So what do you do with the aluminum?
The aluminum goes into what I understand goes into the earth, or settlement ponds there, right? We catch that? The aluminum goes in the settlement ponds, Jim?
Yeah, aluminum's coming from our wagon and the treatment plant. And it goes up in the settlement ponds.
So we could get most of the aluminum out in the settlement pond?
No. That's our problem right now. The aluminum that's suspended in the water is being released, and that needs to be treated because the part that's not settling in the ponds is what's going into the lake, which is one of the problems.
Can you run that water back through the system and put it back through the treatment plant and get the aluminum out there?
That's
where they-
part of the proposal process, yes.
Isn't that where you put the aluminum in the treatment
Yeah.
plant?
Mhm. Yeah.
So how would you?
You're refiltering it again and then catching those particles. Because it's in the backwater, it's not the output water.
Put in less aluminum. Huh?
Backwater.
Then our dirt won't,
Keep doing it.
then
till
our
you
dirt
wear it
won't
out.
connect together.
No,
So as far as cascading goes, I'll mention it to Ron Kreitz, and we're at the point of, that's kind of why we're bringing them on board. They'll be able to figure that out.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy
But
you wanted, so.
there, well, I got him off the internet, fellows, and I talked to him on the phone for about 4 minutes. So I wouldn't know him if he walked in the room.
Well, he
So-
did, he's highly qualified. That's why we reached out to him. The EPA manual on constructed wetlands, he helped write that and cited in it multiple times. That's why we picked him, because if
Yeah, he
anyone
seemed
can
to be
figure out
there.
whether it can be done, it'll be him.
And he's just in Davis, so he's not very far away.
One of the thoughts that I have, and I don't mind, I love going to meetings, but when we have Roger and his report and this other, whatever it is, it might be good if we had that where we had that kind of a key part of the meeting. Am I making sense? Instead of sandwiching it in.
I think we're just gonna have a special meeting.
Yeah, we'll end up having a special meeting,
Special meeting with one, that would be the ideal thing.
and we're gonna have them all.
Way too much information to go over.
And then we can, we can have time to really, because I've been doing a lot of research with, everything I've learned about it, I've learned from Jim and Phil Taylor, and I've learned a lot. And I've got some other ideas on it too. Anyway, so a special meeting would be ideal.
Yeah,
Do you,
We're gonna really get down on the table and talk
Yeah.
about it.
do you have animals in the wetland? You do, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I don't know that you introduce them, but they
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 come.
show up.
But what about putting the aluminum in them? Is that good?
I don't know that there's any
You'll
regulations on
ask
that.
the expert, Mr.
Yeah.
Kreitz, when he comes, I guess.
Okay.
I did forget to tell you, I spoke to a group at Chico State of students. It was a group, I'm blanking on the name, but their focus is sustainability in business practices. I gave a speech to them about PID and how a small organization can make efforts at sustainability, and it went well. And today at lunch, I gave a speech to a SURS group, and it went well as well.
Across the street,
No, the one up at the Eagles.
up there, look
Did you meet Randy,
Who?
the president of SERS?
I think that's a different group.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 different SURS
Oh, there's
in the
3
area.
different SERS groups. I didn't realize
at.
that.
I think he's the one that meets across the street, because I gave a presentation to them about 2 months ago, there's 3 of it.
I have one more question of you when we get a chance. So.
Let's do it quick so we can keep moving.
Oh, your mama's going to be all right.
No, we have a lot of stuff to go over. So.
Oh, okay. A couple of months ago, I think 3 or 4 months ago, I brought up the subsistence up at the treatment plant that has been going on from the lack of compaction or whatever the deal is. And George said he was going to get Niels and survey it, go up there and get out of transit and survey the amount of subsistence. And I wondered if you've done that.
I'd have to talk to Neil. He did. I remember telling him about it. I don't know if he's done anything, but I'll find out.
Okay.
I got a question. A while back ago, I asked you about the sign on Skyway. Did you get what it is I don't know if you see this sign, but I'm an accountant, and when I go up there and it says 67% with an arrow going down on any day, and that tells me that the lake is 67% down.
No,
I know it isn't,
67% full.
but it doesn't say that. It's pointing down.
Everybody who sees that except for you. like,
Right.
understand
No, I know what it means, and I'm just.
I brought it up to the conservation committee, and they liked it because they thought if people think it's 67% down, they're going to conserve more.
Yeah, that's what I told you that. But the problem is,
That's the truth, too.
it went to 66 down, and we didn't. And so that if it's 66 down, then and we had no rain, how come it went how come the percent went down if
Because
it's?
you're using percentages.
I know.
Here's the other thing that we've been talking about in the conservation, and George is the one that put it on. I didn't think of this. If we have a 2-year water supply, we only have 70% of that. If we don't get any more rain, we're gonna get lots of rain.
It's complicated issue, we're gonna keep working on it.
Yep.
We won't do it tonight.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
it's whether you're an optimist or a pessimist.
Let's go on to the.
Glass half full or?
Yeah.
Okay, normally my reports are kind of gloom and doom, and you guys need to worry about some things, but tonight I'm pleased to have 2 items that are good news, both litigation related. The JM Pipe case, the trial happened, and our side was successful. And to remind you, the trial was bifurcated. The first phase was the liability phase. Is the pipe defective? The second phase is then damages. What, if anything, ought to be awarded to all these entities? So we were, it was a unanimous jury verdict. It made the national news, and finding JM Pipe liable. And of course, JM immediately sends out the press release saying they're going to appeal. And but to me, and I have no inside information on this, but to me, when something like this happens, it's natural to kind of shift into settlement discussion mode. And of course, our side will be raising the number, and their side will finally put out a number, I suspect. So it's possible that we could get to some kind of settlement for the board to consider before the next phase of the trial. Another piece of litigation news is the water right fees. I don't know that I've talked to you about this in recent memory. I have?
It's been a while.
Okay. This is the case. Every year, if you're an owner of a water right, you're charged a fee. It was challenged by a group of entities. It went from the trial court to appellate court to the Supreme Court, then back to the trial court. Well, the trial court had another trial, and we prevailed. Our side prevailed on that case as well. And again, it's another litigation that's likely to go back to the appellate level, but at least at this point, we can consider ourselves the prevailing party or prevailing side in that. I'm still recommending that we seek reconsideration every year, and I'm actually doing that right now. The reason you do that is ultimately when this litigation is finished, whenever that may be, I'm hoping that by reconsidering every year, at the imposition of fees every year, that we will be eligible for a reimbursement of some sort.
You documented your complaint.
Right, exactly. You paid under protest.
You paid the number.
I can't help myself. Will we recover your fees? And
No.
we're going to lose on all of this?
No, but the good thing is a number of my clients do this together, so it's a very small amount that you're actually
But we
charged.
might get more than your fees, right?
Oh yeah, you're paying.
Well, he didn't say that, did he? You said, you said he would.
We're not gonna recover his fees.
Yeah.
But-
So we're gonna get money that'll exceed it.
Oh, well, that's what I'm hoping. but
That's
I
why
had
I
to ask
think
it. I just-
he was thinking the other way, that's why.
Just that money with us and it's gone, but you might be
Yes,
from
that-
a safer source.
Ask my wife. That's a black hole.
Okay, I have a question. Are you familiar with what's happened down in Chico with the police department?
No.
Oh, okay. What happened is,
I thought you were going to say that with the Aqua Alliance Groundwater Forum.
no.
That was like last week.
Yeah.
This was last week too. What happened is a council member made public some
Closed session?
employee
Oh.
thing, and he went to the press and everything, and it's caused quite a stir down there. And I'm just wondering if we can learn anything from this.
Why don't I look into it and I'll see if I can.
I think it might be good if, because we don't want this to ever happen to us.
Okay.
Is that the end of your report?
Yes.
Thank you. All good news. That was a good one, actually.
Next time, bring us some dollar signs.
Thank you for coming out.
Bring the green stuff.
See how big our smile gets.
Thank you for staying that all the way till my final meeting of the year for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was under your great leadership. We were able to prevail.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your memoirs.
Okay, we're gonna get to all business.
I'd like to get a, recess.
You want to recess now?
Yeah.
We're gonna take a recess till
Eyes are turning yellow.
7:55.
AM or PM?
We're gonna reconvene at 8 p.m. Okay, old business. Approval process of checks. Review and consider suggestion as presented in email October 9th from Director Kellogg. We'll remind the public that we moved this from last Director Kellogg. It was very nice and smooth that we were running very late that meeting. With regard to the approval process of general fund checks. Director Kellogg, tell us your concern. We know we've all read the email, but.
Well, no, I don't even remember what I wrote on the email. At any rate, what the problem to me is...
It's in there, in your packet.
Oh, I know it's in the packet. I've got something figured out I wanted to say. This thing, to me, is a matter of the board having authority. The board, in the end, we're responsible to the community for the finances of the district. And that's our prime responsibility in our jobs, is to make sure that the district is financially sound and so forth. So part of this would be in how we manage the dispersal of checks. Now, when this was proposed, I don't know how many years ago now, to change this system from what it had been before, I was one of the directors that voted to change it to this. And at the time, the same arguments that have been given by management were given at that time about being more efficient and doing other things. What has happened here over time is that by the time the board sees the check register, close to, I think, 80% or so, Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, of the bills are paid by the time it comes for board approval.
100%.
Well, 100% because we're looking at the check register.
Correct.
Yep, it's already been mailed.
That's what's been paid that month.
That month.
Yeah, so, but it was paid by us agreeing to have it paid in the previous month. In other words, that little
A similar
thing.
amount.
A similar amount. Just that little bit added to it meant that we agreed to pay what we haven't seen coming. And over time, it seems like there's more and more things that are paid without the board. The board approves it after the fact, or we approve it in advance. And I've never sat on I've only sat on 2 other boards, and in the cases, neither one of them ever had a device like this. In other words, every time that the check register came, you voted on it. Now, there's certain bills that need to be paid on time to get the discounts and everything else. So to my way of thinking, those bills can be put on a separate schedule. Just agree that we will pay them as they come up, like PG&E and other bills that, irregardless of whether we agree or don't agree, we have to pay those bills on a schedule. So I'm not asking for an absolute removal of this thing. What I'm asking for is that we work as a group to change this so that we agree that certain bills that have to be paid on time, and Kevin knows which ones those are, that we can agree to that they can be paid. But the other bills that come up, if they're not going to cause problems with vendors on time and stuff, we should have them not paid until the board votes at that time on their check register. Now, I asked Kevin today if he would look into when Ron Korinska and I first came on the board, somehow we were paying the bills in a fashion, it seemed like it was all right. By my memory, Larry would remember too, we're the 2 board members that were present at that time. But I don't remember exactly, so I asked Kevin if he'd look back at it. I don't remember when I got on the board that we had 2 meetings a month. We only had 1.
We had 2.
We had 2. George was the one that changed it to 1.
Okay. then with 2 meetings, then this isn't as much of a problem with the check register and voting, because you're meeting often enough to cover those things. So my reason to bring this up, and it's not a certain thing that I want approved or disapproved, it's something that I'd like to see our finance committee with Kevin looking into it to see how we could do a better job where the board has more authority, because we have the liability if something goes wrong on the check register and what have you, with the community. If we screw up in a major way or somebody does, we're the ones that bear the liability for it, with the community, with the people that have either voted us or talked to us if we've been appointed to the board. So this is my concern and my idea, and I just, whatever anybody wants to say or add or disagree or whatever.
Okay, I don't, when we had 2 meetings, I don't remember if we approved checks both meetings or not. I can't remember that.
I can tell you that the approval of checks happened before I got here.
Right, oh, I know that.
So
I
this
don't
process,
remember when we had 2 meetings.
Signing of them.
I don't remember whether we approved checks both meetings or just
Right.
one. I don't remember that. But I do know that as long as I've been on here, we've always approved the checks, the check register, which just means that they've already been sent out. In fact, Barbara, who came on board with me, was the one who came up with that little statement that says, and approve a like amount for next month. Because before that, I don't think we were saying that. We meant it, but we didn't say it. But the thing is, Bill, I checked with 3 different special districts, and they all do it the way we do it.
Oh, okay.
The ones that you checked with don't write their own checks. The county writes them for them.
You're talking about the cemetery district?
Cemetery, yeah.
And, the Butte County Resource Conservation
Right.
District.
They
would be the other.
see, they don't, when the county writes the check, it's a different ballgame. But we write the check, and it would be horrendous if we tried to do what you want to do. Plus the fact, I talked to Trinka, he was one that said that he does it exactly this way. He says, well, no board member should worry because you approve a budget. And if they're going over the budget, then they're breaking the law. And so when they give us a bill, they're saying that it was already budgeted already, and we've already approved the budget. So our necks aren't on the line. Because we've approved the budget. If they're out of the budget, then they're in the wrong, not us.
Okay.
And so therefore, I don't think it would be a very wise move.
My,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ron, you go first.
my comment about it is that unless you go all the way back to the purchase order issuing and not allow anything at all in the district, not sugar cubes for the coffee room or anything, to be purchased without board approval, the fact of the matter is, once it's been purchased, we're not, as a board, going to say, George, don't pay that $1,000 bill. Because we purchased it, we consumed that chlorine gas or whatever it may be. So if we were going to do something like this, where you want this such tight control, we'd have to go all the way back to the purchase order system where the board actually approved each order brought to them by the staff prior to ever placing the order. And we can't operate a business that way.
Not
It's
efficiently.
my opinion.
We'd have to meet more than twice a month.
We'd have to meet 4 times a month. We'd have to meet on a Thursday every month. Every week, we'd have to meet on a Thursday, so Friday, Kevin could send out checks.
Exactly.
Because other than
No
that,
purchase orders.
well, purchase orders.
Send out
exactly,
purchase
we
orders.
approve.
yeah.
So for the cemetery district, I just want to make sure I got it clear. What they do is their board approves the checks go to the county.
They approve the
That's
warrants.
checks. The warrants, okay.
The warrants go to the county, and the county makes it, and same with LAFCO.
Okay.
LAFCO does the same thing. But that's a different ballgame. And so, we never see LAFCO we don't approve the checks. We approve the budget and we don't see the checks.
I just think with the checks and balance system that we have at the district and the way our auditor comes in and tells us that our checks and balance system is, I think usually his comment is he actually has to look really hard to find something wrong in the district because everything is done so well. So to assume that we're having a problem, I can't assume that at all. I've got to think that the check and balance system that we have set out to make purchases must be working. Otherwise, I think the auditor, who's not paid for by the district, is an independent that comes in to check and see what we're doing, is saying we're doing it correctly.
Yeah,
I don't think he's ever made a suggestion to us.
No, our internal controls are always very tight. Just to remind everybody, the purchases are purchased through a purchasing policy which has been approved by the board. George works under that purchasing policy. Anything that's over that purchasing policy must be approved by the board before that purchase is made. You'll see in there that there's checks, obviously, that are over $5,000. Those items are pre-approved by the board. A lot of times it's retirement, medical, things like that. Those are purchased through the authority of the board through the MOU, which is what we have every negotiations come up. You guys authorize that we give medical or retirement to our employees for an X amount of dollars or X amount of percentage. Those are pre-approved by the board. So a lot of these items are already pre-approved.
The courtyard.
The corporation yard was given a budget, and that George was to work with inside that spending allowance, and so he has been spending within that allowance. Obviously, now you see an additional $80,000, so that he has an additional amount to spend. So again, you'll see Meeks is one you'll see in there for $11,000 that was purchased within that $250,000 limitation. Some of the other things, again, just to remind you too, you did authorize him to spend up to $25,000 for anything that has to do with distribution of water, chemicals, treatment plant, and pipe, and anything that's getting water to the customer. Operations, yes. So that's also set up.
And there are other aspects
Emergency.
of the manual, meaning, when it's over a certain amount, we go out and we actually get written bids. We don't buy
That's correct.
certain level transactions without written bids and
Right.
competitive pricing.
Yes,
and
there's-
so those safeguards are in there, in the policy and procedures manual. And I would say that it appears to me, after 7 years or however long I've been here, that the board does a pretty good job about going through this check register at the end of our meetings and say, I'm concerned about this. I don't remember that. Why did we do this again? So we catch up. Yes, Bill, it's after the money's gone out the door. But we're only really 30 days afterwards, and I think we're keeping pretty close attention to it.
I don't ever recall, since I've been on the board, that we passed something that we said, well, we should have never done
Yeah.
No.
it. Do you,
Well-
I don't recall that.
No, I don't either.
And most, the town council, they get a list of the checks, but they don't even talk about them. A lot of districts don't even talk about.
A lot of districts don't even get the list of the checks.
Yeah.
It's
Just for us to go to.
yeah, you guys. It's actually unusual.
Emulate the town and their handling of money, I don't think.
Even though Kevin could probably produce a list of vendors, I would say every vendor has a short pay policy, or a quick pay policy.
A lot.
There's nobody out there that I can think of really these days that we deal with that doesn't want quick pay and will give you 2% off or 5% or whatever it is. And sometimes you are giving owners a 5% discount for quick pay.
Do you still get discounts? Quick
Oh
pay?
yeah, most definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, and we
I thought maybe they'd been done away with. I remember.
a lot of them are net 10 days, but even if we're 12 days, we
Oh,
take
net
the
10.
discount and make them tell us that we can't take it. So we're aggressive with our discounts too.
I know our auditor, some of the other areas that I've been, you're right on the bottom. I've had vendors that I've worked with right on there, 10% in 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And if you screw up and don't do that, if it was a state deal, they'd come down on you. You can't believe how hard they come down. As an auditor, you don't do that.
Right.
I got it was $100. You're $10 in the hole.
Yeah.
I gotta look at it this way. Kevin's been hired to watch over the finances of the district. George has been hired to oversee the operations of the district and ultimately watch over Kevin. So if he lets Kevin goof up, well, that's both their jobs. Kevin goofs up, there's your job. So I don't think you're interested in losing your job to purchase something that wasn't authorized or.
And if Kevin lets me screw up, we
Somehow.
both lose our job.
It's somehow, you know, there's no plus for these guys to circumvent the system that's been set in place.
No.
Which why I don't have a problem with the way, because like I said, our checks and balance system basically.
Years ago, didn't the president have to sign every check? That was really something.
That's what got this started.
Yeah, because the guy had to stay after the meeting and sign all the checks.
It's,
That's your job.
I don't see any benefit to monitoring the check register in this fashion. I don't know how the rest of the directors feel, but it's my personal thoughts. We have a good enough system in place where I'm not worried that something's going on with the check register. And we see all checks. And we'll be watching.
Well, we don't see all the checks.
We'll be watching for risk.
We don't see all the checks. We don't see the payroll checks.
Yeah, there's some checks that we don't see.
True.
So,
If you'd like to see him, please come in. I will show him to you.
okay, this is an action may be taken item. I would think Director Kellogg wants some type of resolution to this. So I would ask that we have a motion. If there's a director that would like to make that. Or we are just going to.
I move that we keep the same system that we have.
Any discussion from the public? Any further discussion from the directors? Roll call vote, please.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Hunt?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
No.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
President Crowell?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment.
Passes 4-0. Director Kellogg?
I want to thank everybody for considering this, and for Larry especially bringing up information that I wasn't aware of, and being polite and listening to it and going through it. I've had my shot at it, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Collins. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. It's not something we don't want to be watching. I just think that we've got the system set in place. We're going to go on to item B in old business. General manager's ability to approve expenditures of up to $5,000. Review and consider amending the general manager's authority under the procurement policy to authorize expenditures up to $5,000 for emergency situations only. Dr. Kellogg, I'll let you go forth first.
This one is different. Something like 70% or 80% of our budget or expenditures a month falls under this $5,000 thing. Part of what brought it to my attention was during George's negotiations for salary. Some people brought it up to my attention that George had gone to a convention and took his family on Christmas shopping down to San Diego. And I said, well, that's not a problem, I'm sure, as any other businessman. But what it pointed out to me, which I wasn't aware of, the directors, if they want to go to a trip or whatever for business for the district, have to get approval of the board. So I thought it would be appropriate that both Kevin and George, who have taken trips, would have to have approval from the board before they go on expenditures of the money for that. And we should get reports back about how much money was spent, which I don't remember seeing. Maybe they've been in the thing in the check register somewhere. And I think it's actually to their benefit to do this, because then it takes away the gossip of, well, what did they do, or how was the money spent, and da-da-da-da, because that's what was going on. And I actually talked to people and said, I don't think it's an issue. And it pretty much went away. But the thing is, on these expenditures under $5,000, I think they have to be approved by the board, just like anything else. Explanations given. And I don't know what else has been the 5,000 amount has gone for. We have already in the district's thing where emergencies arise, George has enough authority to spend up to 25,000. If that's just for water things, Kevin, or is that for everything in total?
It's for anything that has to do with the operation of the distribution system. So the treatment.
It's just for the distribution system.
And treatment.
Distribution and treatment.
Emergency isn't up there too?
Well,
That's the authorization.
yeah, it's an emergency.
Yeah, but what if we had an emergency that wasn't operational that cost over 25?
We'd probably have a board meeting
Oh,
and be
have to have a
discussing
board-
it.
Okay, we'd have to have a board meeting. Okay, I thought it was emergency and
Well, no, that's in the
Operational.
Brown Act, having a 24-hour notification or something for
Yeah.
It's a special
emergencies.
meeting. It's actually shorter if it's an
Shorter than
emergency.
that?
Yeah.
So this is what brought up my concern over this. In other words, George approved the expenses of Kevin and himself to go on trips, and this is the way I understand it, and the board wasn't involved. And the board members, if we want to go on a meeting of some sort, we have to get approval of the rest of the board. So I thought that should be the same thing for Kevin and George, because I know the employees, to be able to go on educational and other things, have to get George's approval to have it, and it's under training. And usually we receive some sort of report from George when somebody does go on a trip for that. So that was what sparked this deal in my mind of this $5,000. And when I got on the board, again, this is a thing that I actually voted for. Before that, I think it was $1,500, or what was it, George, that you could spend before?
I thought it was 5, but what was added was the 25,000. But I don't really remember for sure.
No, I remember something like 1,000 and then it getting raised to 5,000 as well.
It could have been, because that was part of the decision to go from 2 meetings to 1 meeting a month. There was, yeah, you're right. There was also an increase in my authority since we were having a bigger space between meetings.
Okay. At any rate, that's what brought it to my mind, and I thought in another way it could actually help as far as the situation within the community for settling down rumors or something, because people came to me that knew that George had gone on a vacation, and then they thought that he was spending district money. And I said, he's spending it for whatever the association is, but I'm sure he's not spending anything for his family. So this is where my concern is for this 5,000 business. I think it should be limited to less than 5 or done away with, and maybe another fee come up for emergencies to cover this, because emergencies outside of the water treatment and other things like the trees out here, that was an emergency because the tops might be blown out in a storm. So, and again, my suggestion would be the action that it would go to the appropriate committee to sit down and talk to George and Kevin about it and come back with any recommendations. That's it.
I have a question for you, Bill. Because maybe I misunderstood what you wrote in this email, but I'm concerned about this sentence in here that was then shown in the local paper today. And I did have occasion to talk to somebody, business person in town, who read the article, and they perceived this the same way that I did. So I thought I would ask you, what are you specifically trying to say, or maybe I'll try and clarify it. As you said, the general manager has repeatedly used this, well, the subject says, general manager's ability to okay expenditures up to 5,000. And then it says, the general manager has repeatedly used this so that in some months he okays several $5,000 expenditures. So I was trying to get the grasp of that. Are you indicating, I'll just tell you where my concern is. Are you indicating that you think that there's been a $9,000 purchase and he used use two expenditures of under $5,000 to pay for a $9,000 purchase?
No.
Okay. The way this was worded, it made me think that you thought he was circumventing the policy and procedures. And I just happened to be talking to a manager of a bank here in town, actually, today. This person brought up the fact that they read the article. And I said, yeah, okay, well, since you did, what do you think about this, that statement there? What does that bring to your mind? And the response that I got was they felt that we were stating that George was circumventing the policy and procedures manual and illegally taking a $9,000 bill, making two payments to subvert the policy.
I just told you my answer was no. I didn't have any thoughts of that even. You can interpret things the way you want, I guess.
I think what you were trying to get across was that there are months that he does approve, he does spend over $5,000.
No, this is under $5,000. See,
Oh.
everything that's on there.
Oh.
How many? We probably have 200, 300 checks that are under $5,000.
Right, no, I'm talking that he said that he approves more than one $5,000 expenditure each month.
But they're separate items. They're not this
Right, they're
piecemealing
separate
argument.
items, and they're legal because they're probably they have to do with the service.
That's like saying $4,999.99. And $1.99, those are the same taxes.
Right, but I think he was trying to say that he does more than one 5,000 per month.
Well, actually, it's closer to, I asked Kevin, and I think it's closer to 70% of what's paid out comes under 5,000.
So 30% is,
Yeah.
so 30% is over 5. But I don't think it may have been interpreted
Not dollars.
by the Post that
They
way,
didn't interpret it.
or whoever
They
did it.
published it verbatim.
Oh, verbatim.
No, I'm sorry people interpreted it that way, but that is not what I intended. I'm trying to think of the words that should be used. I was not charging George with not using funds properly. I was saying, okay, we need to have control as a board, like I said about the check register, on expenditures. And I think what's happened is, and I used the trip business to show you an example of how it can be abused. In other words, I would, if nothing else, I would prefer George and Kevin to come to the board and say, next month I want to go on this trip, or I'm going to go on the trip, because they don't really have to have our approval at this point, and it's going to cost the district approximately so much money. And then when they get back from the trip, say, okay, we spent so much on transportation, meals, and so forth. Just give a quick report or put it in the check register and point it out. And then it's taken care of. There's no gossip. There's no feelings that somebody's, that's it, misappropriated funds. That's what I was trying to think of. And it clears up the record. So there's benefits in this policy being changed in some ways to the employees. And there's was no thought on my mind that this was used for inappropriate fundings of any kind.
I see. Thanks for the clarification. I also kind of perceive that. Excuse me? Thank you. I also perceive maybe there's two issues you're talking about here. One would be these expenditures of less than $5,000, and I would say that we shouldn't mess with the policy in that regard. The other issue would be something that is sensitive, perhaps, where it could be perceived as a flagrant use of district funds, like going for a seminar or trip, an educational experience, and having that brought back to the board or brought up in advance, or whatever the case may be. I kind of view those as two separate things, but maybe you're right. Maybe maybe finance, maybe administration.
And you serve on both those. You guys could look into it, but to me, the thing I would like to see changed is that when we have extraordinary expenses or expenses concerned with management, going on trips or doing other things, they should be reported to the board or get board approval before doing that. As far as the purchasing having the 5,000, what it has is a tendency over time to become a thing where I got to get this done or whatever issue in managing the district, and it's done. And then it's reported back to us in the check register.
I don't see a problem with that. That's what they're paid to do. Take care of daily business.
Yeah. It would say that, the office manager couldn't go down and buy an ink cartridge.
No, I'm not saying that. You're not understanding.
But I think that would be the effect if you're gonna try and change this.
No, I don't think that's the effect.
What would you want to lower it to?
Let me interject here. I've let you go for a long time. I've been watching this for the last year and a half, ever since I started attending meetings. And I know once in a while, it'll be said, and we'll say it as a board, I've never said it, but you people have. Well, it's under $5,000. And I know I've heard you say it more than once there. Okay, it is very true. And when I was watching it, I wondered, why does he have $5,000? Now, here's my thought on it. Having worked with these for a number of entities, when we approve the budget, like you just said, Larry, as far as holding that liable, when we approve the budget, they should be able to spend it. So I don't know why we have him $5,000. Now, the 25, I can see it. I had one not quite that big myself. Let's say on Christmas Eve, a 6-foot hole blows in the 42-inch pipeline. Or down here off of Pearson Road when that one blew out, It's very feasible. You could have had to go find 2 excavators with operators and haul them up here, and you would have had umpteen dollars in it,
Mm-hmm.
Well, this will give you the latitude to do that. But when that happened and you fixed the 6-foot hole in the 42-inch pipeline, which could happen to it. And it would always happen on Christmas Eve or New Year's. It would never happen on 9 o'clock on Monday morning, work day, it always happens. Well, then you would have to come back and tell us what you spent your $25,000 on. So when I saw that, it was good. So I don't really know why he needs that $5,000. I really don't. Because I trust both of the gentlemen completely. And once we approve the budget, they should be able to go spend the damn money. But we have to watch it every month that they're spending it and we can hold it. And one of the things that I asked Kevin to do, and he's done this on this particular time, for us, easier to manage it, and we'll go back to page 65, put on pad 65. We approved $455,000 for the courtyard yard. But I know that George and them just didn't guess it's going to take $455,000, and that's on page 66 if you go over there. To finish that, they had to have a list of parts and pieces, and whether it be whatever it is. And that's what they come up here, and I appreciate, and I've complimented you on this before, of putting it down $20,000 for electrical and $3,000 for gutters, and between him and Gene Marini, they figure $80,000. Now, while I'm into this, let me go on. Go to page 123. I've got 123, sorry. 123, let me get back there. There's things here. Okay. Now, if you go to 123, you'll notice that there's $455 budgeted for expenses for the corporation guards right there on the top. Everybody see that?
$455,000.
$455,000 that we approved. I personally think you should be able to go ahead and spend that $455,000. But George, you don't think you should be able to spend any money that we don't approve. Is that correct?
That's what's said.
That's what the policy is, so I follow it.
No, yeah, but I mean, if we give you $5,000 or whatever it is, we're going to be the bottom line to approve you spending $1.
Yep.
Okay, you buy that.
Yep.
Okay, now one of the things I wanted, and here I'm complimenting Kevin on this, again, I wanted to be able to look, because this is how I've done it in the past. Corporation yard on 124, go to 124, please. Okay, and that's the whole thing broke down, and apparently we're going to spend $189,281.
We've already spent that.
That's what we have spent.
We've spent it. So, and out of the 455, I got this on the road, so Kevin and I worked on this together. We've got $265,000 left to spend.
That's correct.
For round figures, you see.
Yep.
And this is gonna be in there every month. And that way we can monitor it, boy. We can say, boys, you're down to your last $20,000. What are you gonna spend it on?
Are you gonna get it done?
You wanna get it done, okay? Now, one more page and then I'll shut up. Contracts, I've always wondered, where do these contracts go around, you know? And here, do we have any other contracts on this page 125?
Those are the major contracts that we have
Major
outstanding,
contract.
that you guys have
Now,
approved.
I look across these things, and one of what I was interested in, the Butte County RCD Forest Plan, and I remember, in fact, I made a move to do this one. 17.5, we paid them $5,000 up front, which they wanted. There's $12,000 left. So they haven't done much work for us yet. If they have, they haven't built it, okay? And then let's go down to Lee and Rowe, because you guys do it. To my knowledge, what we have left with them is $110,000 plus 12,000 or 10 for the wetlands that we approved.
You got the wrong line.
No, so Lee and Rowe, we started out with 200.
Lee and Rowe is 51,000 remaining.
And we got $51,000 left. And now part of that 51,000 is when we have our special meeting, and Roger, I don't expect to go up or nothing, we'll present all that, and that will take care of, what's the guy's name, Oates or Gates or whatever it is.
Yeah,
It's included in that.
Okay, and all that, you see. And this is gonna be in there every month.
Mhm.
And we can say, all right, we've got this many dollars left on these contracts, then we can really monitor it, you see. Now, when they go over it, if they go over it, they're the ones, Watsy's in the crack, not mine. And we'll nail them to the cross,
Probably, I expect that.
right out there in the new garden site where everybody can see it, okay? Now you know where I'm coming from. I don't think he needs the $5,000. I don't know why he needs the $5,000. But if he wants to keep it, it's fine with me.
Well, I've got a concern about that.
You do.
And if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is George ought to have authority provided it's in the budget.
Yeah.
Well, the budget may say you got, I'm guessing, $200,000 for office supplies.
Yeah.
George could spend $199,999.99 on a gold-plated computer, leaving 1 cent for everything else. So that's why the $5,000 actually is a safeguard in that respect.
We don't completely trust it. 5,000, that's what you're saying, Mr. Attorney.
What you're saying is there's budget.
I think Dustin alluded to, I think that was a pretty standard number. I think
It's a policy.
A
There's
few years ago, I think.
Yeah, I should clarify, there's no legal requirement here. I mean, the board can delegate what comfort level there is. I think South Feather, Mike Glaze, I think his is 20,000.
No, I understand, it's a protected for us. But one of the things that he'd have to do, he would have to go to bid for this golden computer unless he got it for nothing. We'll scrap it and sell it.
You do have to bid per policy, but you don't have to bid legally
No, but we have to bid
Unless
for a
there's
certain
bond
amount of
funds.
dollars, don't we?
By policy.
by policy.
By policy, yeah. Okay.
But an irrigation district only has to competitive bid when there's bond funds involved.
Really? I didn't
Legally.
know that. I'm learning every day what you're doing.
Once again, Kevin sees all your purchases. Kevin then becomes the responsible party, whose job is then on the line. If George went to wherever, and I highly question why people are that incredibly,
I'd like to address that on the record at some point.
okay, and because it really concerns me when people's conversation is, I think I recall a conversation where he was spotted in Idaho also. That proved not to be, that proved not to be.
Still haven't met Idaho yet.
But it's amazing how conversations start in this town before one lick of evidence is produced. It's gone around and the name's been used and saying. So it really concerns me. It concerns me when we have this article in the paper in the first place. Because it just draws, it seems to me we're saying there's a problem. There's not a problem, we want to get control on it, but it's not the way it comes across in the article. And I think that's what Ken was trying to relay to you, that it relayed when he had a conversation with somebody in town who's in the banking industry, it comes across as there must be a problem. The check system that is set up here, the procurement policy that is set up here allows for that not to happen. It does not allow for that to happen. So we see everything that George spends his money on. Spends on $1, they're $4,999. Anything above that, we board approved. So once again, I'm with Director Fletcher in this, and I think I'm with Director Hunt, that I don't see a problem in our procurement procedure. And we're not tying George's hands to where George has to call us up and say, hey, you know what? We set it at $3,000, so now this is $3,001. And now I have to have a special board meeting or board approval in order to get this, which means we're quick vended.
Let me run down the first one. It's expense approval report by vendor name, which is a great way of doing this. We've got $1,395 for Patrick O'Hara, AT&T. There's one in there that's $136,000 for the ICWA. That would have to be a different one. But actually, on that page, George, then you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the uniforms, it would be 8 on the next page. That would be 8 times you've used the $5,000 limit.
Except those are all board approved items already.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't fall under this policy.
Yeah, I haven't.
Where do we approve those?
Well, there's policy already set forth that ICMA gets their money.
No, I'm not talking about ICMA. I'm talking about air gas and all metals.
Well, those are.
Yeah, that's under his
operational.
policy. You're correct. He's
Yeah.
using his power
Yep.
to use it.
So we can count it up here, and there may be 50 that falls under this 5,000.
They fall under this 5,000.
Said 70%.
Of volume.
But we are going to see them
I say there's more like 200.
Or what we could be under 100.
that we're going to see them. We're going to know what those purchases were.
Okay.
Whether they be $1 or whether they be $7,000 or $70,000. We see the purchase.
So, every time that you guys would say, well, it's under this 5,000, I really didn't understand. But now that I do, because some of the budgets that I've had the opportunity to be in charge of, I just spent it. And it was approved, but if it was over a certain amount by policy, it had to go out to bid.
It's not like every purchase of
Yeah,
$5,000 you don't get to know.
Or something, Larry.
We just don't have to, George doesn't have to call us in as a board to get approval so that he can spend $3,991.
Exactly.
We've given him up to $5,000 to spend. It does
Fix
not-
that $40,000.
Yeah, if I wanted to expand on the Harper that was on the consent calendar, that's an inspection of our water system. That didn't even have to go to the board. I could have said, that's under 25,000, off we go. But when it makes sense to have timing and, it's unique, it's gonna go to the board.
We know this.
Same with the other two, I don't want committees telling me to expend money
Trying to get your attention.
for the community relations consultant. That's why those two items were on the consent calendar. Yeah, I could have approved them, but it's kind of like I don't want to set that system up where now I got committees telling me I should, and you feel they have the power to approve under $5,000.
Well, that was not normal business.
Uh-huh.
Like the ones that I cited, the air gas,
Yep.
the uniform, that's normal business.
Director Duncan?
Right, okay, I have no problem with the dollar amount, but I do, for informational, I think it is a good idea that we think about getting a report from some level of management when they go on a trip
I like that idea.
to inform us what they did, if nothing else. Many times we catch it in the register and we ask about it, but we as directors, we have to give a report when we go somewhere. And I think that would probably be a good idea. But and so therefore we should refer it to the committee and find out at what level of management we're going to do it. Because we don't want to go, if Georgiana has to go to a class for
Notary.
Like they said, we need a gray area to look at some part of that water.
right, to me that wouldn't be
I
necessary.
remember several years ago when George asked us in advance if we wanted him to go back to attend this national conference in Washington, D.C., so we can get some context on when we looked around, see where we were going to get a tow in for the beginning of the dam. But he brought that to us, he didn't just go and
Right.
report on it, because it was unusual.
Right.
But his other things that he goes to are pretty much usual things.
And I think that George has always come back with a report.
But
Not always, not always.
Ever since we adopted the policy that the board members must make a report,
But you don't do on Kevin.
Kevin and I both
Oh,
have
do
followed
you?
that policy and
Okay,
in
I
our
thought a couple
manager's
times
report.
Kevin went and I had to ask about it.
Kevin will know it in his treasury report and George. and-
Okay.
and-
I only go to two trainings a year, so it's not like I have something to report.
Well, he didn't
That's why
report,
you don't hear on
when he
Monday
went up
basis.
to Idaho, he didn't report on that.
He didn't report on that, right?
Well, I know of a
They
case,
actually have to go on trip until we'll hear a
I
report.
know of a case in the school district where, superintendent can be pretty lax and do as they damn well please and all of this. Well, one of them went on a big long trip like that. It didn't turn in any kind of a travel request, and there would have been none. I asked him, and he was in a very serious automobile accident. And he wound up permanently injured. The school policy would not pay because he was not on school business, and nobody could prove it, you know. If he had turned in one page, I turned in hundreds of the damn things. One page, you don't say you're going to go to Timbuktu and whatever it happens to be, he'd have been covered for the rest of his life. And so, boy, they put a policy in there real quick.
Let me cover a few things.
Okay.
Number one, travel. Yes, I approve everyone in the district's travel, but when I travel, Kevin approves my travel. So he's cross-checking that what I'm going to is in the best interest of the district and it's aligned with our business, etc. It's generally Aqua. I did forget, I was supposed to write it down. I'm going to Aqua December 1st, so you're aware. And I'll give you a report of the expense when I do. To clear up the allegation, we have a travel policy. Travel policy is very specific about what's reimbursed and what's covered and etc. So when I do go to conference, oftentimes my wife travels with me because the hotel's covered. I pay for airfare, she pays for her own meals, everything is done by the book. So yes, there'll be times when she's traveling with me, but it's by the book, it's covered, it can be audited, my expenses are covered, and hers are paid separately.
It is audited.
And it probably is one the auditor looks at every year, I would guess, I don't know.
That's if they select it.
I think, George, if you do what you just said consistently, that will solve the problem. But the problem has been that hasn't been done consistently. In other words, Kevin might be aware of the finances or so forth, but I'm as a board member, I don't remember seeing anybody's expense. How much did it cost Kevin to go to Chicago? How much it cost
Yeah,
you?
we haven't done that. We can do that in the future. It's not a problem.
Yeah, that's something I think you need to do for your, just like Doug gave a little story there, but I think the advantage is to you in your jobs for when we get into the tight spots of debating issues that this is gone. It's taken care of. That's the problem that hasn't been no report, no asking or telling us you're going even. I remember sitting in a meeting and we did a long distance thing with Kevin in Texas, and I thought, well, I wonder what he's in Texas for. Had no idea at the time. And then after a while I realized it was company business, and then I thought about it later and I thought, well, wait a minute, did we approve any trip? Did we, no. George approved it.
Yeah, and the thing is to remember is that this is under George's authority under the purchasing policy.
So you did approve it.
And the travel policy.
And the travel
No,
policy.
I understand it's under the policy. I just want to.
You just want maybe want full disclosure.
We can disclose, but under the current policy, we don't have to ask. Right. Okay. So we have to ask George to get permission, but we don't have to ask the board for permission because it's within the policy. We can report on it, and like George has said, we have reported on all of our travels after we've gotten back, and that's what you normally do is you report what you've learned or what you've discovered.
I understand you report contacts and things you did, but I'm talking about money.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that the money is approved through George's
No,
power.
I understand that, but I don't remember seeing a report coming back that it costs the district X amount of dollars for you to go to
And we haven't provided that, but we can provide that. That's something we're not trying to hide anything. I mean, there's no circumventing policy or circumventing.
No, I understand.
It's open for information. If you want to know the information.
Most definitely. Yes, and we can provide that to you.
Okay, so you're saying this is public information. Somebody in the district can come into the office and ask for this and get a report.
Most definitely.
Without a doubt.
Most definitely, yep. And they can see all the receipts associated with it. Just to remind everybody, too, that we do have a per diem policy. So meals and lodging has a two-way street. You can take the conference room rate or you can take a per diem rate. But everybody selects the per diem rate for meals, meaning so George isn't having to turn receipts in to go, we went to dinner and half of this is my wife and I took this out and this. It's just a set amount. You go to McDonald's or you go to,
Yeah,
Ruth
I
Chris.
can tell you that, like this aqua conference coming up, they have meals. They have a luncheon, they have breakfast, and the breakfasts are $30 and the lunches are $47, and I refuse them. I can't spend that kind of money for a really lousy meal most of the time, so I don't do that. I eat on my own while everyone else is eating, but there's no prohibition from me going in and hearing the speaker after everyone's done eating. I can't stomach paying $37 for a dried piece of chicken, so I don't do it.
So
What I'm basically asking for is that you guys ask the board before you travel and you give a financial report besides what goes on in the meetings on what was spent on the trip. This is the same thing that a board member would have to do if he went to a meeting, he has to get approval of the board, report back on the finances. So I'm asking that if it goes to a committee, that the committee come back with some sort of procedures that would address that for you guys on travel.
and that's good. That's up to you guys.
I would change that to the committee recommends that the board is informed, not granting permission.
You're kind of
Let you decide what meetings you have to go to.
kind of getting into details of what will be a future
Exactly.
agenda item, and it's not clear that that's what this agenda item is, so maybe we should just move it to
Okay,
committee.
so we're gonna make a motion here that we're gonna move this.
Yeah, I suggested go to the appropriate committee and they report back.
Okay.
You're talking on the $5,000.
Yeah, on the use of the
Send it to
5,000.
committee
Yeah, it'd go to finance or administration personnel.
And the trip.
and be brought back to the board.
Yeah, and be brought back to the board.
That's good business.
All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Passes 5-0.
Again, I want to thank you for listening to it and having the discussion and what was brought out, and hopefully our good post reporter will get that in the paper and so people's imagination doesn't go away on them.
It's easy for you to follow on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, new business, A. And I'll say, let's try to pick up the pace here a little bit. We spent a lot of time on that.
You're getting kind of dragging your feet here.
I have been, I should have been reeling you guys in a little bit quicker. So, A, Paradise Adventist Church, emergency water supply, I'm gonna read the whole thing.
He's a lame duck.
Tell us. I think we all read this.
Yeah, you have my written report. The short answer is we have an opportunity to have a catastrophic emergency water supply, and a small request from them that they be allowed to have their meter on at all times and pay the standby charge unless they actually use the water. That way they can meet their legal requirements for the county health department, that they have an emergency backup without having to call us to turn the water on. And we get the benefit of their support. And if we did have an emergency using their well, they have a big parking lot. It would go through the town EOC where the notice would be put out to the people, and then traffic can be controlled through there. And it's a nice thing to have in our pocket.
What's the well capacity? Is it pretty good?
It's pretty good. They don't have a test on it.
Enough for drinking water.
But as far as filling 5-gallon bottles over and over and over, It seems good.
Do we need, but before you do that, Director Buzzer, I was gonna ask, if we make this motion, should we not put at the end of it,
Source of emergency
The-
drinking water supply.
well, when there's no usage, at which point they will be charged the full monthly, even though you have it written up here at the top, should we not make that part of the motion? They will be charged the full monthly service charge?
It's implied, but you could clarify it.
I would also suggest adding that the board direct that we have some kind of agreement. Doesn't need to be in depth, but mainly concerning access. In the event of an emergency, they'll allow PID personnel and third parties, the public, to their facilities. And
Okay, I move that we authorize the general manager, to make up an agreement with the Seventh-day Adventist Church with all these stipulations in it.
I'll second that.
So I have a question. Does PID pay anything if we use their emergency water supply?
That'll be clarified in the agreement, but at this point, no. It was never indicated and never asked and never implied that the words they used were, "We are more than happy to help our community in an emergency."
I thought it was implied that it was going to be a community service
Yeah,
thing. that
they
would do.
were clear with that.
Just wanted to make sure that we have something over here on
That
the
makes the agreement
Well, it
even
just
more
seems like
important.
that is what they're.
That makes the agreement even more important.
Stay at the steel rate for an open tap availability. But yes, we probably have that in there.
that's the consideration for the agreement.
Yeah, and if they're looking for anything else, it'll come back to you.
We'll make sure that happens. I don't think we need to look at it again until we have you send that out. I'm sure you'll cover all the bases.
Yeah, we'll cover the basis. What I'm saying is if they decide they do want to charge us, then I'll bring it back to you before I agree.
Yeah, exactly. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Butte County Special Districts Executive Board, George has brought this to us basically so that we can approve, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your nomination and acceptance of an enterprise executive board member.
So
Do we need to vote on the second one
Yeah.
also at the same time?
Yeah, the first one I want to make sure you're clear, because the directors can answer this, because the ones that join, it's a commitment of time and effort. And even a bigger one if I get stuck with a presidency.
Which you probably will.
So,
how much time after George review that estimate?
well, just attending the meetings, that's not much. But if I was elected president and then we become secretary, we're talking 20 to 40 hours a quarter for Georgianne and a quarter for the 4 meetings.
Plus, you'd be in charge of the picnic too, which is even more time.
Yeah, and there'll be times when you have the annual event that'll be higher than that. So,
$30 for a dry piece of chicken?
yeah, exactly. We should rethink our menus after what I pay down there, or what they want you to pay.
I'm just sure that South Feather is going to vote for George. I somehow feel.
I'm proud to report that Western Canal voted for you, George.
Apparently Steve voted for you too. And then
Thanks,
backed
Ted.
out- Then backed out of the, so
Right.
he's gonna vote for you too.
I
and
think
then
he-
backed out of the election.
I think he nominated him.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any?
You do want to do
questions as
it.
the time that George might spend on this per quarter.
Do you want to do it?
I'm not excited about it, I'll be blunt, but I'll do it if you want me
Good for the
to.
industry, George? Just having it going is good for the industry.
No, it's good for the the local government. What I do for the industry is the Aqua Regional Board.
I can remember when Rick Hall got the job as president, and George was very vigorous in not wanting the district involved in it. So,
Well, back then it was a meeting a month.
Well, once a
okay.
month. Now it's only
Huge.
4 times a year.
well,
Plus 2 meetings.
I'll make a motion. We vote. Has a motion been made yet?
Well, let me say something about it.
Sure.
if I may.
And I want to say something too.
There's gonna be 3 people there for these meetings.
He's not He's not an elected official, so it wouldn't be a Brown Act violation.
No, all I'm saying is that it's got 3 people from Paradise Irrigation District attending the same meeting.
Right.
Is that necessary? You mean the redundancy?
Yeah,
Well, the thing is, see, you represent PID, I represent LAFCO,
I know, you're
and
saying.
he'll represent the,
But we pay your boat.
yeah, you do. But you don't pay my
I'm
vote.
asking, you said you wanted-
So, perhaps what we could do is eliminate, oh, I don't know.
Oh,
do you want to be on? I'm just gonna ask you straight out.
I asked
Because I know we nominated you.
It's just another thing I have to do that
Takes time.
takes time. I mean, I got water commission every month, I've got aqua every quarter, and those are things that are good for the,
So if we
the
voted
order
for
of
the other two
water and-
candidates, you would not really, your feelings would not be hurt.
oh, no.
The thing,
oh,
the
in
thing
fact,
is,
that's why I
though,
wanted to vote for him. See?
okay, the thing is,
He's gonna spend more time getting.
when George and Georgiana were in charge of it, it was run a lot better than it ever
I
was.
wouldn't doubt that the leadership would be there. What I'm doubting is George's conviction to want to.
Well, when George,
I'm sure he has enough on his plate right now.
when
Well, you
George,
could actually make a motion to approve me as a candidate
yeah, and then you can,
with directing me to resign if I'm voted president. And then the time commitment is not
Oh, jeez.
as great.
Then they won't be as likely to make you president.
Correct.
I like that.
so moved.
Well, that's pretty tricky, George.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just following my board's order at that point.
Okay, who would be the second?
The problem with that is I don't think
So we are on the
board
first.
would adhere to that. I think they'd still make you president.
No, but if they understand that I've been directed by my board to resign,
Yeah.
then
Hopefully they won't.
if they do it, I'll resign at
Luckily,
My board's
the guy who gives you the bad time isn't on there anymore. Mike,
yep.
he's not on there.
Please.
Yeah. He's,
You graduate?
he's the one that
So
got
the
us
first
into
part's
it
the
the last
nomination
time.
part, the second part's gonna be the ballot, correct?
Yes, approving
Right.
my nomination's the first item.
So let's have that motion to
Nominate him.
nominate, yes, George, I guess how would it be worded, to accept the nomination for Butte County Special Districts Association Executive Board election with the exception if he is made board president, he must resign.
Second.
Is that the motion? Sound good?
Sound like that covers it to me.
Is that all good? Okay. All in favor, any more discussion?
They might short circuit us and make Ken president, but I can't fix that.
Yeah, right.
You got plenty of time.
That's what they will do. That's what they will do, Rick.
That's the deal.
Any further discussion? Comments for the public? That part's closed?
Who's the second one we're voting for?
No,
That's the second part of
this
the
we're
thing.
just
This is
nominating.
for George.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Were you? Okay, passes 4-1.
Still passes?
Yeah, passes 4-1.
Now, I'd like to make a motion that we vote for Jim Edwards of South Feather Water and Power for the second vote, second
Okay, and
candidate.
make George and Jim Edwards the two nominations.
Yeah.
With the caveat that Jim Edwards become the president.
No, I don't want a caveat. Hey, come on, guys, let's vote on it. We got other stuff to do tonight. Jeez.
So, was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, any second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of making George Barber and Jim Edwards the two nominated candidates? Our votes? Yes.
We give them our votes.
Then we give them our votes, excuse me, thank you, that's how we word it. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I still have to oppose because you look George into it again.
Okay, passes 4-1. Passes again.
I
Ken's
do,
just afraid they're gonna make him president.
except if I read this right, it shows Mike Trinka and Mary Thompson as executive board members.
For the non-enterprise.
For-
Oh, that's the non-enterprise?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they're non-enterprise.
never mind.
He got me too, George.
Yeah, they,
December Board of Directors meeting is item D in new business. Director Duncan will be
right.
presenting.
Okay, I called up George and talked to him about it. Unfortunately, my tax seminar is in Southern California, and I've gotten approval from my board to go.
I was just thinking we paid for this.
No, you don't.
Yeah, okay.
You don't.
No claim with it.
My boss does. But anyway, and so I won't be here for that meeting. And so I was wondering if there was any way of changing it. That was what brought it up.
What days are you gone?
I'll be gone, I'm leaving the Saturday before, and I'll be gone the whole week.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem with moving the meeting?
I think Ken does.
Ken?
Depends on which way you move it.
Okay.
Well, you can't move it the other way, being Christmas.
Earlier,
Oh,
Ballet.
right.
the 11th?
Yeah. I can't make the other.
And could we guess it doesn't have to be on a Wednesday, does it?
Let me go to the calendar.
I was just saying, ballet starts that early?
It's for December.
I thought it was a week.
December.
I can't do it the week.
You're in Aqua.
From the
Is
7th
that
to the
next week
15th.
or is that
I'm in,
the second week of December?
First week of December.
Well, then that leaves us with the week of Christmas, but I don't think anybody wants that.
New Year's Eve party?
Yeah, there you go.
I like your thinking, and,
Have a New Year's Eve party.
will we get budget approval on that?
So when do you get back? When did you say?
What?
If we have a New Year's Eve party?
I won't get
Oh,
back.
Let's use George's 5,000.
I won't get back till the 23rd.
And when you, how early could you do it? Could you do it on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th next week?
Oh, yeah, I can do it.
That's essentially,
I'm at the Aqua Conference,
what days?
2nd through the 6th.
Oh, the Aqua
Second through the 6th, first week of December.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so we've eliminated, so can the ballet come here for the 11th?
I came one
I really have no problem with a floor
Dance
show.
and makeup.
A floor show going on during the meeting. They can practice in the back there, we'll push some chairs. Okay, so we've just eliminated 3 weeks, we've left it down to Christmas.
Christmas week or New Year's week.
That really is gonna slow.
Christmas Eve would be kind of cool.
I don't know, that would be.
Christmas Eve.
Go over like a lead
Get
balloon.
out of here before Santa,
As
right?
long as that meeting-
Yeah, that's all it is.
Nominating the new president, electing the new president, and then adjourning. That would be.
Well, you have to check registers.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2nd through the 6th, you're gone. 9th,
7th
through
to
the
the
12th.
12th, I'm gone for all intent and purpose.
They have that thing, ballet. Wow, you guys have been practicing for like 12 years, aren't you guys doing it? It's the Nutcracker, you're doing the Nutcracker again, right?
Can't you do it in your sleep?
I know, really? I
can't, I know what to do. All those new girls in there.
Oh, all those
Same
girls.
thing every year, the Nutcracker.
Somehow, I think Ken's there for other reasons than the Nutcracker.
Okay, and then Larry was gone. What are you gone during the week of the?
I'm gone from the 14th to the 23rd. I'll be back on the 23rd.
How about the 23rd? You get back early?
Oh yeah. Well, it's just 6:30. Yeah, we'll probably come back on the 22nd.
Right now.
23rd sounds.
23rd. What does that look like?
Well, I could do it, Kevin can't.
Seriously, don't need your these things anymore.
I'll be at Christmas.
Where?
Children.
With the children on the 23rd.
We do our Christmas on the 24th, and
And here comes our office Christmas tree.
Yeah.
that's right.
He did what?
You bring.
I'm the Christmas tree guy.
Yeah.
He's the
But
Christmas tree.
Yeah, exactly. I bring
So you-
the cheer of Christmas.
So you gotta be here the 23rd.
Kevin comes from the high country, so.
11th, that.
The 23rd of December, or of November. I won't be here the 23rd of December. Just put that out there right now. How about
We can do it without Kevin.
for the morning? We can do. How about like a morning of the night?
We could do it at 5 o'clock. Or do it early.
How about it? Yeah,
We can do a morning.
we could do a morning meeting.
Yeah, why not have it during the day? It sounds like all the evenings are.
That work for you?
With you, right?
What time are you thinking? 7:30?
In the morning?
We can provide breakfast.
No.
I'm already taking the rest of that week off, so yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time explaining the Monday too, but.
Of which week?
23rd.
Christmas
No,
week.
I think he was talking about a morning meeting the week of the 9th.
Oh,
That would
Oh.
not interfere with you.
that won't interfere with me, just in my business.
Well,
Or a morning meeting of the,
Little
week of the
problem
ninth.
on
there.
the Wednesday. Would that be
You're
better?
gonna be able to fall back on your secondary job, ballet.
We do 11th, 12th.
I have a train I'm going to Japan, so I could be here in the morning. Yeah.
That just was a whole different picture.
My agent's working with me now.
How about the morning of the 11th?
Let me see what I've got.
Because he early for 12th.
How about the 10th?
Fortunately for you guys, I have a breakfast meeting from 7 to 8:30, so breakfast will be taken care of.
On the 11th?
And my no training on
So what are we,
the 10th.
what time are we saying?
On the 10th, but not the 11th.
10 o'clock?
Why they?
So I think everyone's clear the morning of the 11th.
What time?
10 a.m.?
I can do any of those.
It's not
I
going
didn't
longer.
look, but I'll make it happen.
No, I mean, 9?
9.
9? I thought you said you had breakfast.
I do, but I sure.
Oh, 8:30, okay, 9.
8:35.
What day of the week is this?
Wednesday. Wednesday, it's in the morning, Wednesday.
We said that for December.
Wednesday,
It'll be fine.
Wednesday, which morning?
the 11th.
The 11th.
What is it with December 11th?
It's,
Pearl Harbor Day.
4 days after Pearl Harbor.
yeah, it's
Oh, okay, 7/11.
Pretty sure 6 or 7.
What time do
The
we
11th?
meet? 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
Property
Wednesday,
taxes,
11th.
yeah.
And do we agree beforehand that we'll be done by 1? Or we just let the business go that we don't get covered by
We're
1?
gonna agree we're gonna be done by, I think that would be something, or the business would be, but I accept to be board president, I have no say in it at all, actually.
That's right.
So, I have no say in it at all. My preference would be that we are done by 1 so that I can actually go get some work done.
Okay, 9 to 1 p.m.
It's very question. Well, and it was so stupid.
With lunch served at 12.
Go to
Yeah, I don't foresee a lot of business. I'll have to let the Klung vets know.
Yeah.
They'll make it, I'm sure.
Okay,
They might even like it better.
so, need a motion, or do we need to just?
Yeah, we do.
We have to have a motion.
We have to
Yeah, you have to
cancel the meeting.
cancel the regular meeting and set a special meeting for 9 a.m. on the
Do I just
11th.
cancel the regular meeting, or do I need a motion for that?
Just
Put
do
it
it in
all
one
in
motion.
motion.
Right.
Okay, go, somebody.
I move we cancel the regular meeting of December the 15th, or 18th, and have a special meeting on the 11th at 9 a.m. And if the president is worth his salt, we'll be out by 1.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Passes 5-0. Property loss claim. I already got my thoughts on this one. George, will you explain it to us? I think we read everything that
Yeah, well, we're kind of, this is JPIA has to get some direction from us. The person that hit the car, their insurance has got a cap amount of what they're willing to pay. So you see your options. We can either accept the counteroffer or you can direct us to pursue it in small claims, but that's us pursuing, not JPIA, something we would have to deal with.
And I can't do that.
No, but, okay.
I cannot. Attorneys cannot appear in small claims
Really?
representing somebody.
Yeah, it's no attorneys in small claims.
Oh, yeah.
I've represented us at small.
I would think the odds of us winning are probably pretty good.
But that doesn't
But
get
the
you the
odds of us
money.
collecting are probably pretty nil.
Who is the person?
Correct assumption?
You may have to pay money to collect. But I
Because
think
we'd be collecting from an insurance company.
it's a reputable company.
Oh,
The
is there-
insurance company just trying to screw us over on this.
Well, I know they can pound sand, of course.
That's what I say. I move to reject the counteroffer from GMAC for defense damage at Sea Tank and direct staff to pursue the full cost of repairs and small claims court, Kevin.
Well, is it not possible for us to bring a suit against GMAC
We are. It's
for
our
costing us?
You don't have to go to small claims. You could do a limited civil case, less than
And say,
25,000.
You're costing us.
How much it cost?
Not settling a $3,000 bill.
How much does it cost?
I call for the
Limited
question.
civil is less than 25,000.
Oh, less than 25,000.
Do we already repaired the fence, right?
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah, we have.
invoices of what it
Yep.
cost.
Even though,
Yeah, it's
even though I say
It's-
that,
I don't care what their claim is, we have a receipt that says it cost this much.
so they picked a number that they thought they would settle to avoid having to go to this additional
Yeah,
effort.
well, their number came from
They're both.
their book, their computer program that says 72 feet of fence or whatever it is costs X amount.
They got the same
Period.
website
Didn't
as
matter if you're pounding
Obamacare, huh?
We're understanding, it cost, whatever.
well, this here is our actual cost. Is that-
Yes.
Yeah, the
We spent it,
So you're gonna do small claims?
330956.
the actual bill.
How much is the limit in small claims now?
5,000.
No, it's like 7,500 or something like that.
They raised it again then. It used to be 3,000.
Yeah, they keep raising it.
75.
Okay, I have no problem with us going to small claims and to do this. I'd like to have a vote on it before we can go on.
Is there a, you said there was a different way.
Yeah, you don't have to go to small claims. You can go to Superior Court, limited civil case. I just mentioned limited civil because it's kind of like small claims, but an attorney can represent somebody. It's for claims less than $25,000. That's the jurisdiction.
But that would
We
cost.
get them for attorney fees?
Can we go for $24.99?
I wouldn't recommend that the district spend the money on me to.
Oh, I thought you'd do it for $37.
30.
Isn't that what small claims cost?
What's the,
Yep.
I think it's gonna be pretty simple. We will small claims court with our receipts, the work order,
Yeah.
contract.
They won't,
If Kevin's done it
The insurance
before,
company's trying to stiff us.
and they won't even show probably, and they'll be default.
yeah.
Yeah.
what's the odds of the payment?
Oh, we'll get
Oh,
the
the insurance company?
Well,
You get a judgment on them.
drag it out for years and
No,
years.
yeah.
Not insurance company.
The driver.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you can
If
sue
you
the
get the
driver and the
judgment,
insurance
you can
company.
put a lien
We
against
have to
their
serve
property.
Yeah.
You know, right in.
I can help you. I could help you kind of ghostwrite everything.
GM got a government bailout, they can certainly afford to pay their bills, so I say we go for it.
Thanks, Lauren.
Good point, Laura, good point.
But
Okay.
let's vote. We get on
So, well,
this.
we gotta, make sure I understand the motion.
So it's motion by Director Hunt, second by Director Fletcher to reject the counteroffer from GMAC Insurance for the fence damage at Sea Tank and direct staff to pursue the full cost of repairs in small claims court.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I didn't hear your vote.
I said aye. Yeah. Just in harmony with you. Passes 5-0. Chief Financial Officer agreements. We consider approval of the amended employment agreement with Kevin Phillips. Manager Barber.
Yeah, my memo pretty much covers it. This really came up kind of as a culmination of lots of issues going on. When I did Kevin's evaluation, we started talking about his situation, his contract, some comments that have made about having separation between the management unit and what his compensation is, because currently his agreement says he will receive any benefits and salary changes that management gets. So when management got their COLAs in the last contract, he received those same ones as things went along. And so this accomplishes that separation, although there's never been an issue with it, but it gives a better perception. It gives him more protection. 3 months is pretty small. When he came here, he was willing to accept it because it was a pretty new type of position, and you don't really negotiate those things. But as he spent 7 years now here, he's kind of specialized in governmental finance. So for him to, if he were to get fired by the board, he's now limited his job opportunities. He can't run to a CPA firm and do taxes right out the gate, and pick it right up, or at least compete with people that have done and trying to find that job.
It's easy.
So and also the fact that, the likelihood of a house cleaning of the manager is going to possibly sweep the finance manager out with the bathwater, I guess. So we talked about what his needs were, what his preferences were going forward. We took that to the committee. Their issues are marked in there. There's no pay increase associated with this request. The pay salary in the agreement is the same as what his current salary is. And going forward, he would be linked, as I am, with cost of living to Social Security index, which probably wasn't reported, but on January 1st, it's 1.5% this year.
But now if management
Did we not talk about?
If management gets something more than that, then he gets it, right?
Under his current agreement, yes.
Well, what about under this agreement?
No,
No.
I would be completely disconnected from the management
you're
unit
disconnected, okay.
on salary.
on salary.
What the thing is that, we gave George the 12 months, which is a good golden parachute. The reason I did that, I was in favor of it because it was when we weren't giving George hardly any money. We haven't done that with Kevin because he's been getting whatever management's been getting.
Why don't we?
So I'm thinking that the 12 months might be too big of a step up. I got a lot of flack from the 12-month thing.
Hasn't cost us any money,
No,
and
Never
that's
will.
not likely to ever cost us any money.
Never will cost us any money
unless the board does something wrong. Yeah,
unless the board does something.
yeah, that's the other side of
Good
the coin.
incentive not to do anything wrong.
I would like to add one more thing I forgot in my speech.
Okay.
On behalf of Kevin, our bond counsel that we've worked with for financing, our bond specialist that we've worked with, our previous auditor, never had the conversation with our current auditor. They all independently told me that they work with special districts, local governments all over the state of California. And Kevin is one of the best, if not the best, that they've ever worked with. So that's my 2 cents of it. It's as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned.
Before we make any more comments, the admin and personnel committee met with Kevin and George, and we went over some things. And Ken has a lot of stuff that you guys should probably hear prior to making suggestions or whatever, because we have a suggestion already for you. So,
Yeah, we went over a lot of these things, and in regard to Kevin's contract, in regard to the security about the severance, we felt that it was appropriate, largely because the situation here about being in government business now is that just a very commercial business. Also, looking at it, we didn't feel like it's going to be a cost to the district. And if it makes him comfortable, and we put something like this in place, you know what's going to happen if Kevin were ever to leave the district? Whoever it is, we're going to go out on a search for. And if they have any intelligence at all, they're probably going to say, I'd like to see the contract from your previous chief financial officer, and they're going to see what we have there wages are one thing, but these other benefits and the security. Young person like Kevin coming to us maybe wasn't so much interested in security, but if we were in a situation where we would replace him, our candidates include a 50, 60, 45-year-old man. They're going to have different things that they're looking for, and their security is going to be one coming in. Especially if it's a situation where the board did terminate him and got rid of him. The other issue is the separation of the conflict of interest or the perceived conflict of interest about being on the board side, the management side, in negotiations with the management group. He's in there, George, Kevin, Kim, and it's perceived as a team. And Bill keeps bringing up that he's uncomfortable with that because of the situation. And you're kind of negotiating for things that are going to benefit you. And it just helps us remove that and get it completely away. The issues in here that you read about his education, his continuing education. We put in our job description that we would prefer a CPA. We didn't say require. Should we ever change that and say, we're just going to require CPA, we need that level of competence. What Kevin's been doing, going to his trainings in the past are 100% associated with the district needs and in maintaining his CPA license. And I think that's something that, here we were, this is kind of a fortuitous timing on your part to bring this up in contract, because just a few moments ago, we were sitting here saying, well, maybe we want their travel expenditures brought before the board, and depending on the political makeup of the board, or who's cranky that particular day, or what's going on, we may say, well, I don't know. We think maybe you should just pay for your own CPA license renewal, the requirements. And that may be a short-sighted opinion based upon the value that he brings to the district. But the committee thought it was appropriate for us to continue on in that regard of continuing to pay to make sure that he keeps up with his CPA license. And he wants that so that he can, if he ever did get swept out, thrown out into the bathwater, that he would be in a position still yet as a licensed CPA moving on for the job. The area that there's two more items I want to cover. One is this establishing the cost of living increase. The committee feels like instead of establishing that effective January 1st, 2014 with this year's Social Security increase, that we would not want to move. We would want to defer that and wait until Social Security increase at the end of next year and make his COLA increase effective on January 1st, 2015. Now that's a year and a half wait from when he would have gotten his last increase, which was July, along with the management group of 3%. But then on the other hand, we're looking at this and saying 3% on July 1st, 2013, and another 1.5% on January 1st, 2014. So we took the more conservative route and recommended to the board that we move that, make that change and make it effective on January 1st, 2015. And then one other item that was not listed in here, but I brought it up, and George, I didn't bring the little verbiage.
The language?
The language you sent to me. I looked in my packet, I have papers here, and that must still be on the floor. Is that we have in here, well, I would like to see a wage range established for his position. This is something that I suggested for George also. But if we establish a wage range, it just helps us in the future for guidance. If you do need in 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 years to go out and find somebody else, we have this policy that we made and said, hey, this was the wage future use, not necessarily with Kevin. But the other thing I wanted to add, that I thought we should have some language in regard to the board at its discretion. Perhaps the general manager will bring it to us and argue the point. But the board we have some type of language in there for bonus compensation if we feel that it's warranted. See, right now, there's nothing in there. We're in a situation where we're not going to be able to do anything like that.
I thought that the COLA was the minimum on George. That if we wanted to give him more than that, we could.
See, there's a provision for George for.
There is a provision in my contract,
Oh,
Yeah,
but in this one that was
not
proposed,
in
there
Kevin's.
wasn't.
There wasn't in this. So
Oh,
I
okay.
asked George, I said,
Okay.
As it should appropriately be, could you give us some kind of language that the board would consider to.
Same language that George is at.
I can't bring it up, but I can read it to you. What Emily Lemos suggested or edited, what we put together. After the employee's annual evaluation is completed, the general manager may recommend an additional increase to employee salary and or merit-based single payment. The board may, by minute order, increase employees' compensation to be effective the first of the following month by providing an additional increase to the employee salary and or authorize a merit-based single payment to employees subject to customary withholding. So the short answer is, I do my annual evaluation with Kevin. If he's done some extraordinary things, I make a recommendation to the board at the next board meeting. Did his evaluation, these are these great accomplishments. I feel he's warranted an additional salary increase or merit-based payment, and then the board decides whether that's appropriate or not.
Okay, that was the gist.
Okay, does he have steps like the other?
No, he was in a range. So
He was.
there is an established range. It's where he's at now minus 20% basically. And so based on his longevity here, he's already been at the top of his range.
Okay, so he doesn't, and you don't have a range either, really?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, well, I brought up the deal about the 12 months because I got some feedback, but it was from the supervisors. And I was getting to think about, well, wait a minute, they're elected officials. Why should they care? Because I don't think, if you're not reelected, you're not going to get a golden parachute. Do you? I don't think so, do you?
As a supervisor?
Yeah.
If you've been there long enough, you qualify for PERS.
Oh, for PERS, but you don't get a severance pay.
No.
Yeah, right. So I'm wondering why they were so upset about it. Jane Dolan was the one that really, he hit the ceiling.
Probably misread it and thought it was a severance package, whether it was.
No, she knew that it was, if we let him go with no cause, then he got a 12 months thing. And I said, well, yeah, but we didn't give him any big raise or anything. The thing is now, that was the reason I brought it up, and that was just for the information of the board. That doesn't mean I don't agree with giving Kevin the 12 months. I just wanted everyone to know what experience I had.
Let me preface my comments here, because I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I've met with Kevin on it. I know of no one that I would prefer to have as the chief financial officer of this operation or any other similar that I might be involved with than Kevin. And I've already cited 2 or 3 things that he's done for me to bring me on board. He's got 3 things in this that's going to make us able to manage our contract and building projects much more efficiently than I've been able to watch for the last year here, which we've already covered with you. But I do have several things that I want to discuss here, and in regard to this, and I wanted to preface it because Kevin is one sharp individual, very helpful, and the facts will do that. And I find him that truthful about all of the employees I've run across here at the PID. I'm really impressed. But there's a few things that certainly we're going to disagree on. Starting on this 108, page 108, you want to bring them up here and I shuffle through them, I'll be as quick as I can be. I have no idea what, no discrimination, and I don't know, I think the committee put this in, the termination without cause or with cause, and then we'll go over for severance pay. There's quite a series of thoughts on individuals in most tax-supported operations that 12 months, even though we can go to 18 months, that's really sucking the system. That's a good way that they've said that, is excessive. Now, 3 is too short, particularly for a job like George or Kevin has here, when he becomes a finance. So I really feel 6 months is quite adequate for a severance package. And I don't think Kevin would have any problem getting fired by any board from doing something wrong. I really don't think that's going to be the
Can I
case.
speak to that, Doug, really quick? This language with cause, without cause, my office added that.
Did you
That-
add
that's
that? Well, I looked
and
at
that's
it
for
and
clarification purposes.
And I thought this was real well. I have no problem
If
with that.
and if just so everybody's on the same page, if
No.
Kevin broke the law or something and was terminated for cause, it doesn't matter what the severance provision, how many months it is, he would be ineligible.
He would be, I realize that.
So it's only we're only talking severance of 3 months or however months if he's terminated without cause.
I've been involved in a couple of severance packages, I think, not on me, fortunately not. And if the board fires somebody, playing old country terms, and that person takes it to court and wins, and who knows what court's going to do and have the attorney and all that kind of stuff, well, then that individual would win. And I've seen it go both ways. But generally speaking, any kind of a board that's worth their salt would not fire somebody without having good
Cause.
It happens all the time.
You just wouldn't do that, you know.
It happens all the time.
Well, but no,
Political.
they need to be taken to tax.
The town did it, they cleaned out the council came in and cleaned out the whole town. Almost,
Did anybody take them to tax?
no, because they have contracts that said they can be
Now, the
terminated.
town has, okay, I talked to Laura Gildan, I know her pretty well. She's the only one in the town that has
No.
severance, and she has a 6-month severance package. That's what she had. Now, that's what's really accepted, and I think Larry was alluding to it. Now, moving on down through this, I have no problem with the $110,264. But what happened on that, because I was trying to figure out, the last time Kevin and I talked about it, he was making $104. But I did realize that he was under the thing here where George could approve it, and what happened, he didn't have anything, and he had 3%, 9% raise compounded, and that brought you up to the $110,000.
Over the last 3 years, under the management's contract that was approved by the board, I was able to receive the COLAs that were included.
Now, getting along with what Ken was saying on the continuing education, this is the only way it can be, is to cover all of his costs and expenses to keep the educational training annually or whatever is required for his requirements for the EPA.
CPA.
That's out here, but it's, yeah, CPA, yeah, I understand what that is. So that's a done deal. Now, going over here, here's one of the things, that according to our chart, and according to Kevin, last time even, he becomes an at-will or an exempt employee, and he works for us, the board. Is that not correct, Kevin?
That's currently under my current contract. I am a contract employee to the board, but I do report to George and to the board. And
Yeah, but when you become this chief financial person, then you will be with the board.
No,
He
he is already.
For the district, yeah. Well, see, any that I've been involved with, under item 9, go to 110, item 9. The board, and any of I've been involved with, would be the one that evaluates him, because he works for us. He works for us. Is that not correct, Kevin?
oh, I work for you guys. Of course, I work
Yeah,
for
we
you guys. I
don't
work for
evaluate
the
him.
district and the
He's at
whole.
home with us, and we should be the group that evaluates him. And so
So
that
that you don't
should
know all his accomplishments throughout the year. We might, George is the only one that really knows.
The day-to-day stuff.
Well, we could bring George in on it, but the board,
Well, it's a
because he
George
works
Adventist,
for
right,
us.
of course.
He works for us. If you have an employee working for you, you don't have somebody else evaluate your guy. Okay.
Well,
So So I disagree with that.
Georgiana works for us.
I realize that, but she works.
Doesn't get evaluated by us.
Because it's here. And if it ever comes out, if she stopped doing such a phenomenal job as she does, and push comes to shove, and we went into there with cause or without cause on this type of thing, which that will never happen. But anyway.
You wouldn't appoint her as secretary.
But however we want to word it under 9, the board should, and maybe it's, the board should be on that position. Go ahead.
Let me give you a little history, just so you're aware of it. When Ron Krasnicka was here, Ron was an employee of the district. He was not a contract employee of the board. So when Ron was going to retire and we created this position, I put in there for the board to approve in the contract that I do the evaluation. The reason I did that is because I had been getting evaluated by the board every month or every year, and it was me writing a memo, giving them my taste of the year, them looking at it and saying, okay, there wasn't a true evaluation process. So I felt my best way to instruct a brand new employee is that I do the evaluation. And so that's why it was set, that just to give you the history.
Okay, I appreciate the history because I'm learning more on history all the time. But one of the things with this new promotion, which I hope that he gets, to chief financial officer, he's not the old Kevin that you're talking about. He is a brand new Kevin.
I'm going to be the same.
He's going to be. He becomes an exempt employee. He serves at this board.
He already does.
I already was.
He already does.
He is, right, yeah. He's the chief financial officer.
The reason why I changed the name, the title, was because finance and accounting officer, finance and accounting manager, was becoming kind of, it wasn't. Yeah, it was antiquated and it really wasn't descriptive enough.
How long have you been an exempt employee?
Ever since I've been here.
He's always been a contract.
Yeah, so nothing under what I currently do or do to the board or how I present to the board or even the interaction with the board will not change. The reason why I changed the title is because of the antiquation of the title that I currently had, and it just felt like it was more descriptive, and it's just easier to say CFO instead of is.
CFO.
Does carry a little more weight.
Does carry a little more weight, but I think I deserve that weight. I think I've performed in that capacity.
As I prefaced my comments when I first started, as far as Kevin's ability to be chief financial officer, by current job, I have no problem with that. He's one of the sharpest ones I worked with, and I worked with pretty damn sharp at all levels. Okay. But I feel that he's very well protected. He would feel more protected with the 12-month type of thing. But I think for the constituency that I've had talking to me about different ones, and yours included, George, out here, 12 months is excessive. 12 months is excessive. So I would prefer that we have 6 months. Now, 3 is not enough. For a lot of positions, 3 is plenty. But for a position of the manager or the CFO out here, that's not enough time for 6 would be.
I don't think in Kevin's position and the job that he would be kind of limited to go look for, I don't think 6 months is enough. I know 3 months is not enough, I agree with you absolutely.
Even with the,
I don't think 6 months is enough for him to find the carry on the job if the board decided to come in and clean house. I don't think that it's.
if the next board decides to come in and clean house, with Kevin's background and what I know about him, what he's covered, I'll bet you in 6 weeks he could find a job. Maybe better than the PID.
Well, I don't know, Jeannie would be as apt to put her money on the line with you on that. You can take that up.
I'm complimenting you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Particularly with his experience.
I believe putting the 12 months in there is actually a protection for the district, because for a board to come in here and say, well, we're going to clean house just on general principle, they're going to have to reconsider their choice of doing that, because now they're going to pay 2 12-month severance packages, if that's the way it went. I don't want to say that's the way it went, but let's say either 1 or 2 12-month severance packages, which makes them sit down and actually reconsider. We can't just run on our emotions. We're going to really have to have some valid reasons why we're going to get rid of these guys, because if we just try to get rid of them for no reason at all,
$250,000.
$250,000. So I find it actually a protection for the district, because I also think Kevin is one of the smartest individuals I ran up against. He always has an answer. If he doesn't, he's the first one to say, he will find that out. But 99% of the time, when you ask him a question, he knows the answer in a multitude of subjects. I
found exactly the same thing.
So I don't think it would be at all a good thing for the district to lose Kevin to a board that couldn't see past their own noses. So I think the 12 months is in place as more of a protection for the district than it is for good protection for you. If something like that were to happen, but I would hate to see a board come in and review that.
I've seen something before, and I know Larry has. If there was a board here, he wouldn't stay very long anyway, of that type. You know, he'd be looking to move on, and with the economy of ag and others with his experience, 6 weeks he'd have no doubt. I bet you wouldn't. Throw your hat in the ring and find out.
I've seen people sit through some pretty tough times.
There's a lot of CPAs out there out of work.
I was gonna say, I could foresee people sitting through some pretty tough times to maintain the job at this.
Yeah, but with his past record, I'm talking in his favor.
I don't know if that was.
Where he's come from, and the audits and all that, he's head and shoulders and miles down the road more than a batch of CPAs that I know.
I think you're confusing
His ability with,
employed CPA who's got a job and goes out on the market to look to market himself and find a job. Because you have no negative stuff going on. If the board comes in and terminates George and Kevin, and we say, yeah, without cause, we're willing to pay severance, that's still dirt. That's a black mark, and it's not, I think that's where the problem comes in, about opening those doors. You can open the doors when you're sitting in a job getting paid, and a lot of those doors are gonna be closed if you're let go.
What kind of a board? Now, I realize there's all kinds, and Larry's got more experience with this. I've always worked for great boards, and with great boards, just like I'm here, you know. And, but what kind of board would ever think about doing that? I can't believe it.
Well, I think this board has. Bill has.
Bill has what?
Bill has thought, you know, he has fomented this insecure feeling that both those guys have over there. Because of the continued attacks of George that spilled over to Kevin, talking about whether Kevin is just a puppet of George's back and forth. I just have to say that this is where the insecurity comes from. So it is this board he's concerned about. And if you want to find out whether that's true or not, ask him.
I have never answered that question. I don't know if I will or not, but I haven't felt that yet. The years I've been observing this kind of thing. I've been on the board for a year now, and I've been observing since last August, 1 year ago.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway.
I've seen a board that where one person dictated the whole thing. And all you need is one wild person who's paranoid, and it can change the whole atmosphere of the board.
You know, I've been on a lot of boards. I'm on 5 boards right now, 4 other boards right now. Sing them out of me, get them to me, you know. I'll have them suck at swamp water before you know it. Well, this though, hurry that up.
Can I say something?
Sure can.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Serving on the board, my attitude toward the employees and myself is to try to make this a very good district and one of the best water districts. But it means that you have to hold the management team accountable for what they do. Now, when I talk to Kevin, I don't think he finds me complaining about his service. It's the opposite. And thanking him for going out of his way to get things. There's only a few things he hasn't done. And so I don't think I think maybe you're paranoid, Ken. And I agree with Doug. I think 6 months is adequate if you take that $60,000 or more, right? And I would think in that time with that money. Now, as far as CPAs getting a job, one of my daughters, she's a daughter-in-law, but I call her a daughter, just recently moved from a CPA firm here in town to an Indian health center as a CPA. I don't know what she's making for new salary and all that, but I'm sure the way she was acting is a great increase over where she was. And she's becoming their chief financial officer as a CPA because she did such a great job working with that firm as a CPA doing her audits. So I think somebody of Kevin's skill and knowledge, and certainly if something happened to him, he could come to me or he could come to Doug, and he would get a letter of recommendation to go on with. I'm sure he could come to Larry the same way.
I think it's more over the point is, and you can ask Kevin for clarification on this, is that in his current sphere of what he handles in governmental accounting, that does not transfer over to the private sector very easily. He has now limited his sphere or his scope of what he is focused in on, has knowledge of, is not what a normal CPA would know. Correct?
Yeah,
Incorrect? Or
I can cover everything if you would like. First of all, I want to say that I appreciate and love my job. I really do. This really, truly, this contract's not about money. It really isn't. It's about security. It's about security of my position and about how I feel like this position best works. That's why I put the education thing in there. I think education is an absolute must for this position to have. And the one thing, though, that I've realized that I work in is I work in a political environment. I work in an environment where my bosses can change upon an election. I don't work for the person who owns the district. I work for the person who's elected to run the district. That changes my thought process. It makes my job a little less secure than if I'm working for Larry Duncan or if I'm working for Bill Kellogg. I work for the town or the elected officials of Paradise. And that's where my severance or my wanting of that security to come in. Yes, I have limited myself to education based on my job because I like my job. That's truly it. I'm not out there going to corporate tax seminars or S corporation formation seminars to continue my education and my certified CPA license that way. I'm going out there, I'm going to government finance classes. I'm going to government tax classes. I'm going to water education classes that are focused on water finance. So I am limiting myself. I have put my roots down in this area. I'm not planning on leaving this area anytime soon. So that's the other thing too, is I've not only limited my education and my scope of my education and my expertise, but I've also limited where I would like to live. I would like to live in this area. So, that's where the job pool kind of shrinks. I probably could go down to Sacramento or down to, Santa Rosa or Napa or something like that. Probably pick up a job 4 weeks, 6 weeks. 6 weeks, okay. And that's probably very true, but that's also uprooting what I've established, but not only what I've established, what my family has established. My wife is a partner.
Do you realize what's happened in agriculture?
I understand,
in the
definitely.
last 5 years, what's happened?
I understand, but I also understand where I've focused my education and my expertise.
No, I understand that too,
Yeah.
but what agriculture is booming with a lot of outside money coming in and corporations, and they need financial officers, and they're not farmers.
Quite honestly, I don't think we're talking about Kevin's prospective job market in the agricultural business. He's asking me right now for job security here. And that's really, I think, all this board should be in.
And I
don't think we should be concerned with where could Kevin get a job. Hey, let's go get the Wanians, someone run down and get the Chief Enterprise. Let's see if we can find Kevin a job, just in case we decide to fire him tomorrow.
That's right.
That's not what we're here to do. We're here to make sure that we're taking care of our Chief Financial Officer.
I don't.
And
these considerations.
There is a reality, and you can believe whether it could happen or not. But we have an election next year. There's 3 board members up for election. That's the majority of the board. I've been involved in elections here and other places. Many times, the prospective person, the person that ran against you, never came to my office to sit down and ask about PID, how do you operate, what's going on around here, nothing. So you could get a group of individuals that constitute a majority making promises to their constituents that, you know, things are broken there and we're cleaning house without ever even having a conversation with us and understanding how we operate. And once they've made those commitments, regardless if they think Kevin's the best thing since sliced bread once they get here, a lot of times when they make that commitment, they got to follow up.
That's what happened with the town. The council ran on the fact that they were going to clean house, which they really had no basis for doing it. And they got, all 5 of them got in and they cleaned house. It was called the Friday Night Massacre. It happened right up here.
Well,
Yes, I got a couple more comments on that.
Laura, I'm sorry, Laura, I saw your hand going up, I thought you were adjusting the camera.
Just, let me try to clear this up from a public standpoint, okay? Here's the problem with public things. And what happened to the town is exactly what if the board isn't careful will happen to PID. You'll eventually have these gentlemen making so much money that the next people that come in will want to get rid of them because they make too much money for Paradise. That's the problem. That's what happened down at Paradise Town Hall. They had so many people, they had a man down there taking care of the streets at $36 an hour.
Yeah, but he didn't get fired.
No, he got cut back to 2040. His wife came in and cried about it. That's what happened there. But the problem is when people spend other people's money, they have a tendency. I like these gentlemen. I think they do a better job than anybody I ever saw do the job. But the problem of it is how much can Paradise afford to pay? And so I understand why he gets insecure, because as he goes up in pay, the next board may want to look at that and say, look, we could hire a guy at whatever, I don't know whatever it is, but and they wouldn't get the quality this man is. I don't deny that for 1 second. But the thing about it is, they might want to do that for financial reasons, and I believe Kevin's worried about that because of what happened over George Barber. But the commitment that I'd like to get out of Kevin as a citizen paying this stuff is try to be careful with your raises, because this is a small town. As you said, you got roots here. 110 grand a year, my friend, you can live pretty good on Paradise. And
He's asking for no raise.
No, but I'm saying he gets a natural raise. And so eventually, just like George, just like everybody else, you'll price yourself out of the private market in Paradise. You see what I mean? Because after, let's say, how many years does it take you, George, to get to 200 grand?
I'm not here yet.
Not even near to it.
Nowhere near it.
I'm saying,
How many would it?
How many
If you use the general Social Security increase, probably 20 years.
20 years, and you're a young man, because I'm old and I understand young. And so you could easily get to 200,000. What would the public think if you were managing a place at 200 grand?
In 20 years from now, 200 grand's going to be pretty cheap.
Just to put a Reader's Digest version on this thing, I'm all for Kevin getting the job security. As long as the board and him have an understanding to not try to drive that job to too much money and appreciate what you're getting.
I do.
I think
Repeat
the
the
public would be
sentence.
happy.
Repeat the sentence that you said to Ken and I.
Yes, this is not about money. This is not about money. It's about security, and it's about giving me the tools to do the job the best I can without handcuffing me. Basically, not if a board came in here, and just like what Lauren said, if a board came in here and said, you make too much money, see you down the road, I can get somebody in here and do it for $30,000 a year, then they have to make a financial decision to make that done. And that's what I'm looking for. Make a financial decision to get that done. And the other thing too is that I feel like education is a very valuable tool to this position, and I can also see a board that comes in and goes, no more education. It's too much. We're not paying for it. And I feel that is a huge detriment to this position, and it would handcuff me not to be able to do my position the best I can. That's what this is about.
Let me under item number 6, under this, thing you're using cover for that.
Yes.
That's an addition. That's what I'm putting. I'm putting forward.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. No, I have no problem with that. Let me go back over here to item number 9, performance evaluation, and I can see where you're coming from, and, you know, I'm not naive, sometimes I think I fell off the surf truck last week, or at least the week before it came through town. But would there be some way that we could have the district general manager and the board of trustees evaluate and set goals and objectives for the ensuing year? Would there be a reason why we couldn't do it that way?
Both the board and the GM do the performance evaluation.
Is there any reason not to do that? Because he would basically be doing it and bringing it back to us. This way we'd be right there, we'd be brainstorming on goals and objectives for the ensuing year.
I don't see a problem. I mean, you could both do individual ones. The general
I
manager
think
could do one.
We'd be impeding the
No.
process of the general manager. I honestly think that the board would
Well,
be impeding.
it is kind of two different functions.
If we did that, Seth, if we did that for the people, and I have nothing but the utmost experience, respect for working up here in the field, but see, Kevin is basically working with us.
I agree.
So it's
Separate
entirely a different situation, and basically the five
Do you care about that?
the five members here, whoever they may be, and those two are the manager of the system.
Can I make a middle ground suggestion?
Yeah.
The language be changed so that the board will provide input to the employee's evaluation. So basically, I'll write his evaluation. We'll have a closed session item for you to give me input. You'll get to see what I wrote. You can bless it, you can add to it, you can subtract from it, and then I will go over the evaluation with Kevin.
And then after we get done with that process, for the goal setting and the objectives, and you guys might have talked about it before.
That's all part of an
We
evaluation.
could all be part of the evaluation. I'll buy that.
I mean, it's just a
Now, you know
suggestion.
where I said on this 12 months base salary? Personally, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that on either one of you guys. And I feel so comfortable having him as our chief financial officer, that on such as that, and it would have no, at this point, financial, I'm trying to justify, that I really believe 6 months is ample, you know? But on that one item, I don't want to vote no. Because I want his support. I want to support him, okay? Because that's what he's done for me for the last year, and I really appreciate that.
Okay, so
If I ask him to do something, he jumps up and down.
Okay, so on that one item, run that by me again. On that one item,
Whatever.
the severance package.
Evaluation?
the
No, 12
severance
months.
package,
Oh,
You would vote.
yes, for 12 months.
But I don't want to, yeah, but
You
I
think
don't
six
want
is
to vote,
enough?
I don't want to vote no on him becoming the CFO. Because of that one item, because I don't think it makes a hillbilly's difference in one of
I
the.
don't think so either.
I really don't think so. Except people look at it and say, God, you're gonna pay him $110,000, but I don't think we'll ever come to that factor. But if we do fire you, we're going to have a reason, I'll tell you what. Old Dustin will be covering our butts in court, you know? You better get yourself a good attorney, sir.
Let me remind you of how it went with me. What you guys are working on, you've gotten basically a proposal from Kevin. So you amongst yourselves have to vote on a package that is a counter proposal to what he's put in front of you, or an acceptance, one or the other. So you can vote however you like, and then Kevin has to decide whether he accepts that proposal or he wants to recounter that
Just like you
proposal.
had to.
Yep.
So in other words, if we do not come to agreement, then he will still be at his current wage, and come next July 1st, he'll get whatever increase we vote for the manager.
Correct.
That's correct.
Which would actually wind up being more money than he's asking for.
Yes. I
And-
would assume so, unless you don't give anything to him.
Essentially, it would be more money than
Especially
he's asking
with me putting it
for.
off.
He's asking for comfort and no money, or we do nothing and he gets money and he loses his comfort on it. So we will pay him more money, I think.
Well, if it has not, it doesn't come down to money like he's saying. with my comfort level, I would be much more comfortable with 6 months.
I don't think it's something we're going to use.
But anyway,
20 months.
I want him, because of to the benefit of the district and our ratepayers, I want Kevin to be this chief financial officer. I have that faith in the guy.
Let me see if I can speed things along. Where are you guys at? Are you at 6 months too?
I'm at 12.
You're 12?
I'm at 6.
Okay.
Well,
It's like a vote.
Yeah, well, so
He's
I
just trying to speed it up.
Yeah. So you don't have the votes for 6 months. So it sounds like we've made an adjustment to the performance evaluation provision.
I'll buy that.
Kevin, you're okay with that?
Okay with that.
So then,
I'm okay with Ken and the committee's
addition.
Addition.
What was the addition again?
How about the aspect of delaying your COLA increase?
I'm okay with that. I'll accept that if that's the proposal that comes back to me.
The addition was upon a recommendation of the GM, the board will consider giving a merit-based increase or
Okay.
a salary increase.
Yeah, but we don't have to
Don't have
evaluate
to.
him if we don't
It's
want
a may,
to.
not a shall.
No, well, the evaluation will happen. You don't have to give
Right, we
him,
don't have to.
just like mine.
Right.
You'll evaluate me, but you don't have to give me nothing.
Get along with what Ken said. I think we tried to get that on you, George, and it didn't happen. We need a bottom salary for those positions and a top salary, you see.
And,
That's one of the
and I understand that, and
And
that
we don't have
certainly,
that now, but you said we need it.
Who would like it?
Ken said that.
Yeah,
We do.
We do.
But, one of the things,
But-
and getting it back to Lauren here, John Q. Citizen out there. And I've had this in my own pay for quite a number of years. I topped out 4 years ago. And even though I got a COLA, it didn't go on to my pay. I never got any more. So what you guys are getting is 3% every year. So your raise, say like how you, George, you're making $140,000 before benefits or whatever it happens to turn out to be. So at 3%,
no, I'm getting 1.5 this year.
1.5.
1.5. Yeah, let's watch.
Social Security.
Let's watch how we throw out those
no,
numbers.
I'm saying 1.5 now.
Let's just say
If I
that's
had a
how-
paper, I was gonna break this for myself, 1.5. Okay, well, but that's gonna add on to your $145.
Correct.
See, I don't like that. I don't buy that. So you know where I'm gonna be coming from before long. Because pretty soon, you're gonna be looking at the $200,000 he's talking about, 20 years will happen before you.
Well, that's a negotiation. He's got a contract with that in there.
I know that.
So he's got to agree to take it out.
I was the one, if you remember, that pushed all that. You remember, I was the one that pushed all that, and I completely, but see, what I don't want when we negotiate, we
Now
get
you
down there on the
flip-flop.
table, no, I'm not flopping at
A little bit. That's a little bit there.
all. No, I'm not flopping.
But we really shouldn't be discussing anything related to
I don't
that right now.
But
I would like to know what kind of language we're doing on this number 9. The general manager shall evaluate employees' performance annually. In addition, every year, the board of directors and employees shall set goals and objectives for the ensuing year. Now, I don't know why the board of directors was taken out of there. The general manager evaluates his performance. In addition, every year, the board of directors and employee will set goals and objectives for the ensuing year. I didn't even know that was in there, and we have not done that ever.
It's not currently in there. That's
it's not in there.
in my current contract.
It's
If
not
you
in your
recall,
current
what
draft.
happened is Kevin's got his current contract, which should be attached in here. And what this is implementing the legal changes that this firm put into my contract, into theirs. When I made that transition, that board of directors related to my contract, and I didn't catch it till later, so I fixed it.
So that has never been in a contract with this?
Correct.
Yeah, because I said,
Yeah.
well, we've
We
never
never
evaluated
No,
it.
that wasn't
What's
there.
going on here? Did we miss our
It
job?
was just misworded.
So this was a miswording?
Yes.
That's all it was?
We've never evaluated that.
Yep.
And never were required to.
We never were required to.
Translated from George's contract.
Yeah, he
Right.
used his contract as a model.
And we evaluated.
And I just missed that.
May I speak to that issue? I kind of threw out there, why don't you both evaluate them? Let me elaborate on what I was thinking. I think there's an aspect to Kevin's job that is reporting directly to you. And I'm actually a big believer of the board having a contractual relationship with the treasurer, because the finances, as Bill has said, stops with you guys. So there needs to be a direct relationship. It's not really good when you've got the CFO or the treasurer reporting to somebody else. It ought to be reporting directly to the board on certain matters. So when I said, why don't you both evaluate him, there are aspects to Kevin's job where you guys can evaluate him. You can evaluate his performance in board meetings, the material he gives to you, those types of things. You can offer improvements, whatever. There's another aspect to Kevin's job, the day-to-day type stuff, that George ought to provide an evaluation on, because he's the one that observes that. And, he could be the one that could more likely give legitimate improvements and critiques and those types of things.
Get a well-rounded evaluation.
Right.
Okay, I want to, and Bill may not like this, but
What anybody? I'm not worried about
at the
whether
last
they like
evaluation
it or not.
of our town manager, of our general manager, Bill did not participate.
No, I didn't.
And I think that is wrong.
Well, you told me that at the time and afterwards, but I also told you I didn't think the system that we'd come up with was a fair evaluation. So I have the privilege of not participating.
Right, but why do you want to evaluate him if you didn't want to evaluate
You
him?
now know no participation is a yes vote, though, so.
No, what we're talking about two different things, because we were talking about an evaluation system that I didn't agree with at the time. There's no evaluation system spelled out in this thing. That's something the board will have to arrive at, just like we did with George, but I didn't agree with it. I didn't think it was fair. So
We didn't have one before.
It's the reason Kevin's never been in front of
But at this point, let's not worry about the evaluation process, because we now know that we are going to be included in it, and then we word it. As to what you want to see in the evaluation process, you will need to interject what you would like to see in there, I think, or suggest.
well, what are we doing with this paragraph? Are we changing?
paragraph, as I suggested, was the district general manager shall evaluate employees' performance annually and review that and seek input from the board.
Do you want a specific date?
But even,
See, the problem with that it jumped out at me, and again, I think in hypotheticals, so this has nothing to do with you guys, but when the board and the general manager disagree, the manager gives a horrible review, the board says, no, the guy's great, because he reports everything we want to hear. And you've got a dispute there between the GM and the board, and if the GM is only required to consider the board's input, not adopt it, then you've got tension.
Well, I have one basic problem with this, and this is giving George authority and taking it, and the board, I think, should have the authority because of Kevin's unique position. Doug tried to explain it earlier. If you look at the chart, he comes over to the board,
right,
as it reports directly to the board and not to the manager.
So Dustin, give us some wording. You're absolutely right. So Dustin, let's get through this tonight. Dustin, give us some wording.
Does the board want 2 evaluations? One board, one GM? Or does the board want a process where the board and GM have to come together and both sides get equal opportunity to voice their input?
That, I think, is a better.
I would prefer that. I prefer that. That's what I prefer.
Are you okay with that concept? Yeah. Okay. I'll craft the language.
Okay, that creates harmony. That should create harmony, really.
Okay, and
Well, I'd like to
COLA increase until 2015.
So
Can I make a motion?
All the other provisions, hold on just a sec, because I don't know that we're going to have to spell everything out before we can make the motion.
No, what I want to do is basically table it till the next meeting when Dustin can have all the writing up and a finished document for us to
I just want to make
peruse,
sure
and it should pass
we're covering all the bases on here.
are you all right with that, Kevin?
The other
Okay
item,
with that, yes.
12-month severance package.
Yes. Education.
Education, thank you. That was the,
And
Continuing
and then
education as related to the
I'm
district.
okay with the paragraph that Ken wanted, that George read to Ken, about the opportunity if
for merit increases.
based on board approval.
What are you talking about changing the When's this to go into effect?
Essentially, if we never use it, 2015, when his COLA would be the only item that would come into effect, and his evaluation.
Well,
May
this
I
one,
make a
Wait,
suggestion?
wait.
Yes, please.
That's the regular-
What about
Is there,
2014?
Can I ask you, will it expedite
Yes,
this
it will
process?
expedite a lot.
Okay, please, then.
My suggestion is that legal counsel has heard your consensus. You take that consensus, reformulate the contract, and it be considered at the January board meeting.
January.
January,
Has to be a
December.
regular board meeting.
Because it's not exactly.
Okay.
It's not a special. Fine, that's what I want to.
Kevin?
Well, Kevin wouldn't be losing any pay because he's getting, so there's no pay retroactive or any of that. Yeah, okay.
Nothing will happen in 2014. You have to wait till 2015. That's right. That's already the way it was, so there's nothing that's going to change.
I don't know. Kevin, there's
We've agreed
two
to
more
that,
months,
to-
we could
to
just
letting him have
terminate
it.
you
I know, that is true.
without cause.
You still have to pay 3 months.
We're going to draw a close to item, what
this
was
whole
that?
thing will come back.
9 on the, no, excuse me, that was 8F. We're going to draw a close to that with,
Continue it to-
the board has instructed legal counsel to craft a solution
That's good.
that works for
I'd like to
everybody.
vote on this.
No vote. You want to vote that we're going to have him?
We're going to
We're
vote.
going
Bring
to
something
table
to
it
us?
until January, and then
It doesn't
we'll
need a
do-
vote.
Why doesn't it need a vote?
Because I decided it.
Because the
President just said it did.
It's still, we're still
The thing.
we're still
The first
negotiating.
regular meeting is January.
Still negotiating. We're still in the negotiation.
Yeah, so we proposed something back, and Dustin is going to craft that language for us.
And that allows Kevin to review it,
Exactly.
Yep.
so he's comfortable with what
Okay.
it says before you even
Some
consider.
people have been patiently sitting, waiting for a board recess. I was hoping we'd be at this stage at about 9:15. Apparently, it's 10:15, so we're going to need to
Not in Hawaii.
notch this up right now. It's got to be 5 somewhere, right?
What do we have besides closed session? Do we have anything on the closed session?
We have a lot in closed session.
Oh, I
so-
know that, but do we have anything before we go to closed session?
Now we have
Treasurer's
director's
report.
comments, treasurer's report, checking the checks. Yes, we have a few things.
Okay.
5 minutes, I'm going to give it a 3-minute recess till 10:28.
Okay, you have my written report. Currently, the district's cash position's at $4.8 million. Unrestricted, 2.6. That's pretty standard for where we are normally during this time period. Debt service, we've paid down debt service of we've paid debt service payments of $620,000. So our current outstanding debt is $11.6 million. From an operational standpoint, we're right on budget. Consumption's right in line with budget. Just some of the highlights, the accounting and billing software, we are fully converted. We are still working bugs out of the system. Obviously, you've heard from some of the communicating on the bill and how we want to do that. So we're continually trying to perfect it to make sure that it's the best readable bill for the customer. The full page bill is out. We are sending that through our printing service, and everything has worked really, really well. The district customers now have online accounts, and that they're able to pay online and with the credit card now for free. And we are continually trying to get our customers online and trying to get them to be actively involved in their account and try to take that having to deal with them, interact with them out of the office, because it's a money issue. And if they come in, hopefully they come in not just to pay their bill, but to come in and maybe have a question or answer the question or talk about consumption.
How are you doing on telephone numbers? Because I noticed that was in there.
Yeah, we're doing fairly well with receiving telephone numbers and calling people with leaks with those numbers. I haven't got the data back recently on what how many we've done, but I can probably get that for you. But it has been a successful transition. Also, the automated meeting reading system has been a benefit to many, many customers coming in, talking about leaks, asking when the leaks happened, and when is my water running, and being able to pull it up right there and tell them. We actually helped Dustin out on that. So.
Are you the voice on the automat?
No. No. Well, since Kevin brought it up, I'll briefly mention it. I was on vacation for much of September. And I came back, got my PID bill, and it's the highest bill I ever received. What's going on here? This doesn't make sense. So I had these guys look it up, and the girl that we had watch our house and water our plants left the water on for 24 hours straight.
Oh, no.
So
he had a tree that was watered really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
tell the water conservation.
Did you tip her? I know, you know.
I unfortunately paid her before I learned of this. So.
All of our retirement accounts, except for the plus fund accounts, has transitioned over to FTJ funds, and I've been really happy with the service that we've received over there. Whenever you call Rick, he's over here. We've had a few times where we've had new employees come on board. He comes over, sits down with them, sets up their accounts, one-on-one service. I just have nothing but positive to report back to you on that transition. Hopefully, but in May, those additional funds will transfer over to FTJ, and then all of our funds will be with that. And like I said, our annual audit is scheduled for December 16th, and that'll probably last a month or a week, and then they will be presenting in January their audit report. So,
have you given us the budget?
A copy of it.
Budget?
I'm not sure if I've given you a copy or if it's all electronic. I'll give you a copy.
Okay.
Each one of you a copy. I'll make copies for you.
Okay.
And also, I will be traveling to San Francisco on the 11th, right after the board meeting, to attend a government tax seminar that I attend every year. And that basically goes over all of the new laws associated with employee tax, healthcare, any type of retirement account, new information.
You have to leave town by noon, right?
Huh?
You have to leave town by noon.
I do, exactly.
We got to get you out of that meeting.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Mr. President, whoever that might be. So, if you have any other questions, I will answer them at this time. If not, we can move to the checks.
Anything on the treasurer's
Got
report?
mine answered.
I was good. I knew my answers. So I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Nobody else will.
Just going to sit here all night and watch the wheels turn.
That's the way to go.
Anybody second?
I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
Larry did.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. And that was an aye from me also. Okay, passes 5-0. Approval of October checks. Let's start with Director Duncan. Just go right down the line.
I only have two. On page 132,
Dang it.
how come we have so many trips to the dump from the corporate yard?
O'Neill landfill. Those are all for the construction out here. I'm not sure what they're
Construction
hauling.
debris.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're hauling to the dump, but it's all based on the corporate yard construction.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, I was wondering what they're dumping. You saw where the brewery is 99% green?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been around for 20 years, so they're gonna. It's a little easier for them to
We've
be
been
green.
around for 100 years.
We'll be green after we get going.
Right. Okay.
I have to dump some trash now.
The other one is on page 138, and it's what is it? What's the vendor? You made it smaller. Research. Yeah, research is for how much is it?
What are we looking at?
It's two payments of $13,266.24.
Where are you at? What
Page 138.
Oh, 138.
Peterson Caterpillar.
Yeah, that. Okay, it's the generator. What is that?
Yeah. If you remember, Jim Passanisi reported we had power failure there, power issues or power imbalance issues during the heat spell. So we had to have a generator that we rented to keep the system running.
And how long is that much?
2 months.
Well, that's 2 months, okay.
We have made a claim to PG&E to reimburse us for that, and it's in process.
Oh, good. That's all I have.
Director Kellogg.
I don't have any.
Okay. Director Hunt.
I just have one question on page 141, iPad. It's the Tri-Counties bank card. There's a usage of the bank card for $1,951. And it seems like a pretty large charge for a bank card instead of a check and a procurement order.
And it was ran through the procurement policy. I'm not sure what kind of construction supplies it was for, but it was for construction supplies for the
I
yard.
think that was, we needed a special piece that goes into the walls as you form them to provide a water stop. Because for our backup generator and our fuel islands, we have to have containment in case of a leak. And so when you're constructing that wall, you have to put in the appropriate equipment to make sure that fuel doesn't seep through the wall if it was to spill. And I believe those were those, I'm guessing that was those special items.
But we kind of had to pay with them with a credit card instead of.
We had to find them online.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
Why
we
would
had
do
to
it.
find it online. There wasn't a local
Okay.
supplier of it.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
I'm guessing, but
Too bad you don't get mileage. Huh?
Yeah. Get airline miles on that one. Director Flesher.
I only really have one, and I was just looking at it. On this North State aggregates,
Paid.
16,000, this is all for the corporation yard, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
really a good gravel works up there.
yeah, that was the base rock
Base
lift,
rock, yeah.
and then the lift of 3/4 chip rock.
Yeah, 3/4 AB on it, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was observing in and out with the garden and all that. You guys did a very nice job on this ramp going up here, and that's been paved, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, we got that paved, and we got this section paved with the concrete gutter. That's going to allow us to close down our stormwater permit for the project. So getting those two things done before winter, we now have enough coverage and drainage improvements in place that we can get out of that.
Yeah.
permit.
We'll talk about it when we get on the conservation, but this serpentine going up, when do you anticipate getting started on that, or have you already got started on
They're
it?
starting, it's formed.
I thought they were looking at, and that'll be quite a irrigation project in there, a little bit, yeah. That we work out with the conservation crew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have any other check?
That's it.
That was it? Okay. And Ken, the only one that I saw that stood out was the one that Ken caught. I kind of had a question on the same thing, so since we were going to be talking about that tonight anyway, so. Okay.
I move the approval of the general fund check numbers of 45,491 through 45,634 for the month of October 2013, totaling $633,882.89, exclusive of voided check numbers 45,597, 45,546, and 45,633, and an authorization of a similar amount allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of November 2013.
He's wordy, isn't he?
I was going to say, thank
That's
God
so
you
you
don't.
won't amend my...
Second.
Okay, I was thinking, I was saying, thank God you don't have to repeat the whole thing just to second it. Okay.
Just as a side note, that $633,000 has got to help the economy. It has to help the economy.
We had to have spent some money somewhere, yes, that helped somebody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Passes 5-0. We're going to go into director's comments, then we've got closed session. Director Flesher.
I thought we had a very good meeting this evening. I got a lot of stuff accomplished. I felt good about our happening and the January meeting. And then, President Sepp, you're going to be you're one more time for sure.
He just opens
Nope,
the meeting.
I open the meeting and that's it.
That's it, okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for your leadership, because one of the things that I've been meaning to say,
Thank you.
with your leadership and the rest of you guys and gals, I've been able to be myself, and I appreciate that. I get a little windy once in a while, but I appreciate you letting me be myself.
Not you.
Just a side note, all right.
Director Hunt.
I have no comments today.
Okay. Director Kellogg.
Just want to thank the board for nothing greater than being accused of being paranoid, which I explained to Ken at the break. If you're self-employed, you're always a little paranoid. And there's no way getting around it. And Larry understands that. And but other than that, I thought it was a good meeting, and I got a chance to bring some issues that have been bothering me for a long time, and they're pretty well settled now.
Thank you, Bill. Director Duncan.
I want to thank the board for changing the meeting to accommodate me.
So it's not just
Gonna
the
cost you.
ballerina.
That's right. Breakfast is on Larry that morning, right? I know. Really. I forgot. Did we stipulate that in that meeting? Move?
Didn't hear it in the motion.
I know. Really. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was in a bylaw somewhere in there. And once again, I'd just like to thank everybody for this year. It's been very educational. It's been a fun experience. I look forward to doing it real
All
soon.
aspects?
Yeah, yeah, all aspects. Yes, we're very educational.
Oh, okay.
And but I'd like to thank staff for all their help, and legal for keeping me clean, making sure I wasn't going down the wrong path most of the time, and the rest of my directors that sit with me. It was a good year, so I thank you for everything this past year. Also, my comment, I thought about it when we were talking about the lake, when you were talking about the road base and the lake being low, and I thought, well, we're just not going to ever let the lake get that low. We're just going to shut the water off, so we won't have to worry about the boaters walking into rubble that they might slip and fall on. So we're just going to keep the lake full. So anyway, we are going to now adjourn this meeting into closed session, or we're not going to adjourn, but we're going to go into closed session. We have a lot to go over with legal counsel. Something tells me we're not out of here till about midnight. And you're welcome to stay. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next meeting.
Comments?
Any comments?
On any closed session items?
From the public?
Any comments on the closed session items? No?
I'd like to thank you people for
Last
hanging in
last
there
thing
with
kept
us.
me
It's
clean
great
again.
to see your
I know.
smiling
Thank
face
you.
out there.
Just a little,
Record's not quite perfect.
just a little late in the day. Thank you, everybody.